Welcome. It's the 25th of November 2024, 36 days before the end of the year. Welcome to this live broadcast. My name is Mike Migo. You're watching Good Morning Kenya on this rainy Monday. Kwenye huko kunanyesha. There's a lot that has happened, and in the course of last week we had the State of the Nation address, and also over the weekend we had political drums beating all over the country. And one of the things that happened is the fact that President Ruto reiterated his unwavering support to the church, emphasizing on the need to give, the act of generosity. On the other hand, we had the former deputy president who was in Murang'a, and for him, seems like it's a glove off kind of a situation, and he has in a way hinted of a political vehicle for a possible alliance to counter the president in the upcoming general, that is in 2027. We shall keep tabs to see how that progresses in the course of the political landscape, because one day in politics is a very, very long time. And also, given the happenings that were there yesterday, especially in Murang'a, can we say that the mountain is already outside the government in terms of support? So it's something that we are going to look into as we progress in this program. I'll be having Crispas Wadhimba, who is a political analyst and governance expert. Also Mark Dingo, who is a governance expert, who will be coming to the show to talk more about the political landscape of this country. I'm not alone. Vivacious Vivian is in the house.
Did you just say vivacious?
It's a Monday. Kuna watu wamenyeshewa.
Kunanyesha. It's allowed
Yeah.
Just for today. It's a beautiful new week. Good Morning Kenya is on, and we are broadcasting to you live from the broadcasting house. I hope that you are keeping warm, and they say that the rains come with blessings.
Yeah.
So may you receive yours as it pours today. Today being a Monday, we have a lot in store for you. Of course, Mike, as he's already mentioned, he'll be tackling politics, and we'll get to just hear what our panelists have got to say on what is happening around the country politically speaking at the moment. Now, later on, I will be having a conversation on the international money transfer by KCB, and I will be joined by one Mr. John Mainge, who is the branch manager, Gateway House, KCB. He'll be here just to tell us about international money transfer and how to go about that. Then also, I will also be having a conversation on climate change and psychological impact to the vulnerable populations in Kenya. So how does climate change impact people psychologically? We will be talking about that later on as well, and I will be joined by three panelists. One is Festus Odingo, who is a climate data expert. We'll also be having Sarah Mabanja, who is from Grail International. And last but not least, we'll have Doreen Washira. Doreen is the lead psychotherapist, Rubber Care Center. You definitely want to stay tuned for that later on this broadcast. But before we get into all of that, how about we check what is on the papers today? I have a copy of the Daily Nation with me. Megwe has the Standard and the Star.
Yes.
So where do we start?
I think we should start with a Daily Nation.
Okay.
Yes.
And on the Daily Nation, we have on the top page, why 10 judges face ouster over 3 billion land feud. Now, decisions by several judges over the years regarding a 443-acre piece of land in Juja, Kiambu County, are threatening to grind the Supreme Court's operations to halt following to a halt rather, following a petition seeking removal of 4 of its officials. So the Kenya Cultural Center Council chairperson and a former Gatundu MP, that is Ngegi Muigai, want 10 senior judges to be dismissed from alleged misconduct in handling the dispute. So there's that is on the front page of the Daily Nation, and that story has been highlighted on page 4 and page 5. And then still on the front page, we have former Deputy Governor Gachagua, Ruto not sincere on Adani deal. Those are his words. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua now wants U.S. President-elect Donald Trump to impose sanctions on all Kenyan leaders who committed the country into the shady Adani deals, saying President William Ruto cancelled the controversial contracts under duress. That story is on page 7. Another story right here, inside state plot to pull plug on live transmissions of election results. That is on page 6. And then we also have climate talks and in a disarray as poor nations reject a 39 trillion shillings deal. That is what is on page the top page of the Daily Nation. And inside, you know, on the first page, that's the second because the top is the first. On the second page of the Daily Nation, there's that story on what happened in Azerbaijan, you know, where we were having the climate talks, and they've laid out that story about the disarray as poor nations reject 39 trillion deal. Still on the Daily Nation, we have magistrate reveals mental health cost of fighting for gender-based violence survivors. Now, Ms. Wasike says she has marked improvement in the prosecution of sexual violence cases over the years. So there's a story on gender-based violence and just highlighting some of the survivors of gender-based violence. On another story right here, on the Daily Nation, we have why pact with Raila doesn't guarantee Ruto's re-elections. Now, President William Ruto, who appears to have lost the support of vote-rich Mount Kenya, is left in dire need of a deal with ODM leader Raila Odinga to show up his 2027 re-election bid. And that is assuming that Mr. Odinga holds onto his support basis, which isn't enough in the event the opposition leader, for the first time since 2007, finds himself without the backing of Wiper Party boss, that is Mr. Kalonzo Musyoka. So there's a story there just looking into that. Probably before I go on with what is on the Daily Nation, you can let us know what is on the Star, Mike.
Well, let's look at what is making headlines on the front page of the Star newspaper. Senators reject Ruto bill on Harambes. That is a headline that is displayed on the front page of the Star newspaper. The proposed law stops political aspirants from fundraisers at least 3 years before election. That is a story that is told on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. I won't stop donating to the church, says President. That is what he said yesterday as he was attending an interdenominational church service at KBC Primary School in Kericho County yesterday. Another story that will pique your interest, Vivian, regards a UN report that slams the country over rising femicide cases. It says here that Africa recorded the highest rates of intimate partner and family-related femicide last year, and this was mainly driven by increase in killings in countries such as Kenya. That is according to a UN report. Indication by a UN report said the UN women said 85,000 of women and girls were killed across the globe intentionally. Now that is an alarming report.
And it's really unfortunate, especially when you look at those the findings. You know, it's really unfortunate because we find out that most of the people or most of these women, femicide cases are by people they know. Most of them is by the husbands.
Yes.
If you look at that graph, the husbands take the majority.
People close to them.
Yeah, so it's so unfortunate. It's not about strangers or exes. It's actually the husbands, then boyfriends, and then now we come to ex-boyfriends. So it's really, really unfortunate.
That story is saying that one woman is killed every 10 minutes by intimate partner. That is according to that report.
1 every 10 minutes?
Yes, 1 every 10 minutes. You will read that story on page 2 of the Star newspaper. There's also a story told on the front page. Dozier exposes surge in crime amid high living cost. Devastating effect of unemployment in the country has been laid bare in a national security report that President William Ruto presented to MPs when he addressed the nation last Thursday. Read that story on page 6 of the Star newspaper. Another story making headlines here is governors blame the controller of budget, that is Nyakango, for delayed release of county funds. That story, you will read it in detail on page 21 of the Star newspaper. All right, let's now cross over to the Standard and see what is making headlines. Money, power, respect inside Catholic Empire. That is a headline that is displayed on the front page of the Standard newspaper. It's saying here, the Catholic Church has an unrivaled social welfare investment that touches many lives, especially among the marginalized, system or spiritual nourishment. Over the years, the Church has invested in people to such an extent that when its leaders speak, everyone listens. That story, you'll find it on page 6 and 7 of the Standard. Mudavadi takes Raila's AUC drive to Angola. That is a story that you'll read on page 3 of the Standard. It's saying here that Raila best candidate for AU top job, that is Mudavadi, tells Great Lakes States African Union Commission chairperson elections will be held in February next year, and Raila is running against Mahmoud Ali Yusuf of Djibouti and 2 other candidates. We'll keep tabs of that story and inform you accordingly as events surrounding that AUC top job unfold. Another story that is making headline is that Trump plan could ruin economy. That is a story told on page 22 of the Standard newspaper, talking about the US president, that is Donald Trump. Yes, right here. Yes. Trump mass deportation plan could end up hurting the US economy. And around 8.3 million unauthorized people were in the labor market as of 2022. Many of the sectors that could be the hardest hit have long struggled to attract US workers. Read that story in detail on page 22 of the Standard newspaper. Another story that is of interest to note here is how Ruto's big gamble paid off. That is a story told on page 4. Trump card. Facing turbulence in the political circles and a crowd baying for blood, the president played a hidden card, tilting the scale. If I get a little bit into the details, the president rejected the Finance 2024 bill after Gen Z protest and also cancelled the Adani deals that he appeared to be pushing at any cost. The standing ovation President William Ruto received from MPs in Parliament last Thursday when he cancelled the controversial Adani deals appeared to be another masterstroke as he pulled while reeling under enormous pressure. That is a story you will read on page 4 of the Standard newspaper. I don't know if you have any other story that is making headlines. Vivian, on the Daily Nation?
Yeah, there are more stories right here on the Daily Nation. And we have MPs plot to block live broadcast of results in State House race. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission will not be compelled to live stream presidential election results as announced by returning officers if a proposed law is enacted. The government-sponsored Elections Amendment Bill 2024 currently before the Senate seeks to delete Section 39 of the Elections Act and introduce another one that, among others, does not require IEBC to facilitate live streaming of presidential election results. Wow, that's an interesting one. It is on page 6 of the Daily Nation, so you can get into that story. Another story right here on the Daily Nation this morning, we have hope for retirees as team picked to look into 85 billion Kenyan shillings pension dues impasse. Now, the national government has set in motion plans to unlock at least 85 billion Kenyan shillings owed to pensioners by counties, a move that could see struggling retirees finally receive their dues, as it should be. And then there's yet another story here that is reflecting on 2 decades of disability inclusion. Now, remember, World International Disability Day got to be marked just the other day. Now, President William Ruto in October last year asserted the government's commitment that every child should have the chance to fulfill their potential and rise to the highest level of accomplishment that their intellect, their talent, their knowledge and determination can allow. This message resonated deeply with persons with disability and parents as well as caregivers of children with disabilities. Now they get to mark, Kenya marks 20 years of progress in disability inclusion, and it is time to reflect on the path the country has traveled in promoting the rights of persons living with disabilities. Now, I had an interview on persons living with disability just last week, I believe on Wednesday, if I'm not wrong, and they raised a lot of concerns, you know, and there was a case about a student from Bungoma County who went through Form 1 to Form 4, but was not registered to do the exam simply because they were abled differently, and the school did not want this person to take on the exams because they were going to lower the school's mean marks. How unfortunate is that? How unfair is that? It's
unfair, unfortunate, and at this time and age, that is, you know, that is pure discrimination. You cannot discriminate a person based on anything. And refusing to register that student for the national exams leaves a lot to be desired, because for one, this person has taken 4 good years to prepare for this paper. Then
the
all of a sudden
they are not. School fees all these years, and then they get to Form 4 and the school just decides because this child is challenged in one or the other, they're not going to take on the exams. That was really, really unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate.
So we still have a long way to go, even as Kenya marks 20 years in that, in supporting persons living with disability. A lot has been done. There's progress, yes, but still there's more room for improvement, because such a case, we shouldn't be dealing with such cases.
It's not supposed to happen.
Another story right here on the Daily Nation, we have why instant fines are the way to go. The Kenyan justice system tendency to detain individuals for minor offenses such as breaking traffic rules is worrying. Such arrests not only waste time but also have ripple effects that hurt individuals, families and the economy. So they're looking into having instant fines for petty mistakes, you know. So that is a story that is on page 12 of the Daily Nation. Another story making headlines today is sugarcane farmers to reap big from farms investment. Now, investment in modern technology by Kwale International Sugar Company has revitalized sugarcane farming in the coastal region, bringing new hope to over 1,500 outgrowers. The move has extended the coast-based millers' sugarcane crushing season from 6 to 9 months annually, development lauded by farmers and industry stakeholders. Another story right here on the Daily Nation. This one is on international news, and it is about the Israeli army order spurs new displacement wave in Gaza. The Israeli military issued new evacuation orders to residents in areas of an eastern Gaza City suburb, setting off a new wave of displacement on Sunday. And a Gaza hospital director, as a Gaza hospital director was injured in an Israeli drone attack. Yeah, that is a Palestinian medic who was saying that.
All right.
What's more on the Standard?
There's a story here about questions raised about the Social Health Authority deal, that is SHA, after Ruto move on Adani project. During his State of the Nation address, the president had cancelled. The president said he had cancelled Adani deals for JKIA and energy sector, and calls have been mounting to drop the health sector project linked to Indian billionaire. In the wake of President William Ruto's cancellation of Adani, JKIA and Ketraco deals, questions have emerged about the fate of contracts for or related to the new Social Health Authority and associated with the associated consortium. The consortium here has a 59% stake and holds in the given that the mandate to provide digitization to the health sector. Safaricom and Convergence hold 22.6% and 17.9% respectively. Read that story in detail on page 8 of the Standard. And also, finally, passing the buck, who is to blame for county cash transfer delays? Treasury CS absolved his office from blame, stating delays in transfer are due to inefficiencies in the Controller of Budget Office. Mbadi blamed the month-long delay to the pending division of revenue allocation. Says we have no arrears, we have transferred all the money that we should have given to the counties in full for July, August. For July, August, September, and October. You will read that story on the page 9 of the Standard. And also, Gachagua vows not to repeat 2022 mistakes in his 2027 plan. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has said he will give Mount Kenya people a new political direction in January, as his allies revealed plans to craft a new political party coalition for the 2027 election. That is one political aspect that is going to be interesting, especially in the coming days, given that now he is out of government after being impeached in Parliament, and now he's out there trying to craft a new political direction, and we shall keep tabs on that and inform you accordingly. I think this is where we end the newspaper review this morning. Not unless, Vivian, you have another story that is making headline, but I think I'm done on my end.
Yeah, we're done.
Yes. So don't go too far. We'll be right back with our first segment, that is the Eye on Politics. I'll be having Engineer Crispas Wadimba and also Mark Dingo in a short while. Don't go too far. My name is Mike Migwe. Keep it KBC Channel 1. This is Good Morning Kenya.
Umepata msaada wote?
Kutoka wapi?
Hata huo mzigo wa kwenda bodo sitisha. Usiupeleke mpaka nikwambie.
Iwapo Jasiri atafariki kwa kukosa matibabu, roho yake haitatulia milele.
Kaka kwa lidungwa kisu kwenye sherehe yako, wewe hata mshipa moyo hukugongi.
Mnigonge kwa lipi?
Na mtu anataka kuona huko ndani.
Sawa, shakuelewa huku kuishi watu. Kama ungekuwa uniambia atakuona mnyama hapo ungekutuka, lakini mtu kuishi watu hapa ndani.
Nyinyi ndio mnajifanya mnakiuka amri yangu, si ndio?
Amri gani jamani, mbura mambo gani unaofanya?
I never heard the music so sweet. I repeat.
Wagwan, me brethren, big things are going. Remember, each and every Monday we have to shell down the place with nothing but the best of smooth reggae vibes in your favorite station. You know these things, man.
Alafu kila Tuesday, kata simu tupo side, giving you Kenyan music from the 254.
And of course, you can spice up your Wednesday by enjoying blazing hot hip-hop and R&B jams.
We don't got no label. She say she want bottles.
Vibes and vibes as we go all across Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, all the way to Tanzania to give you nothing but the best on Afro Thursday. Make sure you make a date with us each and every single Friday with me, DJ_Liza Diva,
DJ Cold,
and me, Wanjiko. This is Club One Extra.
Unanifanya nisikie kunyongwa. Hadija ai, mani especially ukisonga.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Kenya. Thank you for staying with us. My name is Mike Megwe, and now we delve right into Eye on Politics. And my guests are already in studio. I have on my far left, that is Mark Ndingo, who is a political analyst. Welcome to the program.
Pleasure.
And also Engineer Crispus Hothimba, who is a governance expert.
Thank you.
Karibu sana. How's your morning coming along? Because leo kumenyesha.
Not so bad.
Yes.
It was a little bit wet, but
yes.
we are good.
Yes.
Grateful.
Yeah. Let me start with you, Mark. You know, a lot has happened last week. We had the State of the Nation address, and also the political landscape within the country has been very active over the weekend. What stood out for you?
Thank you, Mike. A lot has been happening for the last 1 week. And one major thing which happened was the cancellation of the Adan deal by the president. And I think that was my takeaway for last week. Because the Adan deal has been in the public domain for the last few weeks. Remember when it came to the public limelight? Yeah, the public was the Mwananchi did not want the deal to continue, and they raised their issues to the government, but the government never seemed to listen to the Mwananchi. And it was lucky enough for the American government to indict Adani. That now brought the whole issue to the whole world. It now got away from Kenya, and it was now an international thing for the deal. But I think the most important thing was the president stopping the deal altogether, because that has been the wish for the Kenyans, and that has been the wish for every good-loving Kenyan. So I think what remains to be done is to see whether there are going to be some expenses or there are going to be some costs after the cancellation of the deal. Yeah.
Engineer, speaking on that Adani deal, did it come as a shocker to you, even as you tell me what stood out for you in the last 1 week?
Well, definitely this has been the most critical event in the past 1 week.
where we have seen the president contradict the position of some of his advisors. But unfortunately, I feel like this decision has come too late, because if you look at the issue of the Adani, many Kenyans pronounced themselves against these deals as far back as June this year. But no one in government, including the president, was listening to the protest of Kenyans. And it also speaks to the issue of the finance bill. Many Kenyans pronounced themselves against the finance bill, but even the president himself did not acknowledge or listen to the wishes of Kenyans. So there seems to be a disconnect between the leadership of Kenya Kwanza and the people they are governing in terms of carrying the aspiration and wishes of the people. When the people have a legitimate issue against a certain decision the government has taken, it's important that the government should sit back and listen without dragging the masses into financial losses such as the one we might incur from this deal, or even the loss of life and property, as we saw back in June, when people had to protest against the finance bill, and including the JKIA deal at that time. So therefore, we are finding ourselves in a situation where the leadership is not listening to the masses, despite the masses over and over being found to be right in the right position. And the question we ask ourselves, it is now 2 years into this government. How many times are they going to continue being wrong or finding themselves against the masses? Yet they have a 5-year term. It is now remaining less than 3 years into this government term. They have a very short time or short period for them to redeem themselves. Already now they have taken battles with the church, and the church has taken a position with the people. I feel this government needs to really have a meeting with itself and understand the position it has at the moment. They were given a position to lead this country. And when you lead, you must listen. If you don't listen, you may lead people to the wrong direction. As we have seen with the finance bill, as we have seen with the Adani deals, we want them to be very cautious going forward, that it is time when people make raise legitimate concerns, it is their responsibility as leaders to listen to the people.
You know, be that as it may, the question that any Kenyan would ask, Mr. Mark, did they have to take a direct indictment of the US for Adani boss, so that that deal that he had here in Kenya had to be cancelled? Did it have to take direct indictment by a foreign entity to make Kenya rescind on this, to cancel this deal?
One thing which has been happening with the government is a lot of their policies and a lot of their things they are doing, they seem to be not getting it right. Because if you look at all what they have been implementing, right away from the finance bill down to the Adani deal, they held the Shah and the Shi deal. There's also the issue of the university. They seem to have gotten everything wrong, and that's why many times you are finding the government is coming too late to stop things, because it did not even have to take that so many months for the president to know that the Adani deal was not the right thing, and they were not dealing with the right person. So I think something is wrong with their policies, and they need to go back to the factory setting and get it right. Because if you find a government which is bringing more than 5 deals or 5 policies, and most of them, the public is not even supporting, I think there is a big problem. Maybe the advisors are not giving the president the best advice, or maybe the government is hell-bent on benefiting from those deals. So we need to have a situation whereby the government is involving the people, because many of these things are happening because the Kenyans are resisting. If you look at what happened with the finance bill, the president had to go even all the way to passing the bill. It only took the Gen Zs to storm to parliament for the president to stop it. And now we have seen what has happened with the Andan deal. It had to take the Americans to charge Adani for the president to see that the deal was not good for the country. So I think the government and the leadership of the government is missing the point, and they need to involve the public more on some of these things, because the 2010 constitution gave Mwananchi more power on whatever the government is supposed to be done. So we need to have some extensive and good public participation whereby we'll get views from the public on whatever the government wants to do. Because in a situation where we are getting everything wrong, and the government needs to put things in order, we need to have at least a perfect way of doing things. The best way of doing this, leading the people, is you listen, as my friend has said. You must have a listening ear, and you must involve the people. Whatever you want to do, it has to be inclusive, involve all the stakeholders, so that we can all get whatever we want to do right. But if we continue doing the same, I think the government will continue to be embarrassed by their decisions. Yeah.
You know, Engineer, Mark raises a very fascinating point, saying that the government is missing the point. Now, the question is, does this cancellation help the government in winning public trust back?
In any democracy, you have maybe a 5-year, 4-year, in some cases 7-year term. So in the middle of your term, it is a time when you're supposed to have found the right footing. You must have found the right policies that work for your people. You must have found the right team to be able to drive the agenda of your government. But you cannot appear to stumble midway of your term. So in terms of restoring confidence with Kenyans, I don't think this government is at that point where Kenyans have any confidence with them. If you look at the last, say, 2 months since the last 3 months since the new cabinet was formed, the kind of things that have happened have not even given Kenyans confidence, because the only major thing that have happened since the new cabinet was formed was the impeachment of the deputy president, who during this entire period has voiced his dissatisfaction with some of the policies this government has taken. Yet he was part of government, but he was saying the kind of direction we are taking is not right. And what happened to him? He was impeached. Then after he was impeached, before and after he was impeached, everything he was saying was wrong. He's being vindicated. So the Kenyans may not have that confidence, even with the administration, even those who have been left. When this cabinet was formed, we thought it will do away with the past. But you're finding itself dragging itself into carrying along the policies of the previous cabinet. The Adani deal, for example, it was one of the things that Kenyans protested against. That time it was the JKIA. Immediately the broad-based cabinet was formed, they even added Adani another deal for Ketraco, and to some extent the one for the healthcare, but we are yet to confirm if they are part of that. So you find that the previous cabinet and this cabinet is still is the same thing. The only difference now is that we don't have Gachagua in it, who was the only voice that was dissenting in terms of the policies this government is taking. So in terms of giving Kenyans confidence midway of their term, they have failed to do that. In terms of how they may be able to restore that, I don't know, because if you look at the parliament, when the president said, I have decided to cancel these deals, they gave him a standing ovation. Yet this is the organ of government that are supposed to check the executive. They had all the time to check this administration. They had all the time to say no to the Adani deals. The issues of the Adani deals, they did not drop from heaven on Thursday. They have been in the public media for a very long time. The Americans began investigating these people for a very long time. But unfortunately, it appears the compromise that was in India was also in this country. Some people were compromised and they were hell-bent to pushing the Adani deals. To some extent, I'm very sorry for the former Prime Minister. He even came into the public media and defended the Adani deals and even confessed that they were acquaintances in terms of business because of through introduction by the current Prime Minister of India, which is very unfortunately that as a country, as a developing economy, we are now dragged into doing deals with people who have questionable reputation. And yet we want to work in an environment where we are clean, our business dealings are clean, the kind of transaction we are carrying out are clean. We have suffered a lot in this country because of corruption. We cannot afford to now appear to be exporting corruption. Corruption has been an internal issue. We want to clean it up internally. Let it not become now Kenya is being dragged into a global corruption scandal where to some extent it might be found that Adani also corrupted our officials to the extent they were able to approve a PIP deal within one day, which is a historical event in this country. Yes.
You know, coming from that, it raises so many questions, one of which, this is something that Kenyans had raised questions about. But then again, there's a question of due diligence. What is due diligence? What does it really mean, Mark?
Due diligence is a way of going deeper in finding whether something is well structured, and it also is a way of finding out whether the person you are dealing with is a person of high integrity. And I think to the case of Andan deal, you'll find that the government maybe rushed the process. They did not even do the due diligence. And I think something which needs to be done is for the government needs to correct things so that they can earn the trust from the public. Because this trust seems not to be there, for one thing, because a lot of things have happened and none of the things has really attracted the mood of the public, simply because this is an era of technology, and if you look at the person who blew the whistle on the Adan deal, that is Amenya, is because of most of our youth are so much interested in the way the government is being run. And for the government to get things right, they have to follow the right process. They have to do due diligence. They have to include all stakeholders so that we can get things right. Something else also needs to be done on some of these policies. Unless we have a proper public participation, I think the government will always get it wrong. Because here we have a government that thinks whatever is supposed to be done is right. So long as the government has, the leadership of the Kenya Kwanza has agreed and accepted the policies, they don't care about the public. So I think that is where we have the disconnect. Here is a government which is doing things, is not even involving the public through public participation, is not even having extensive due diligence on the people they are dealing with. And at the end of the day, you find whatever they are doing is not measuring up to the standards and to the integrity of the public expectations. So I think we are where we are because we tend to do away with so many things, and we tend to rush whatever we want to do. So mine, I think, is to appeal to the government. Yeah, they seem to have gotten so many things wrong. Moving forward, let them involve the public, let them have an inclusive process whereby we get the technical and the professional advice from people who know about this private-public partnership, so that our people can get the right deals, and so that our people can get the right development. If at all we mean well for our development, then we need also to have a proper structured way of doing our public-private partnership. Yeah.
Engineer, from where you stand, to what extent should public participation be involved when it comes to PPPs?
Well, PPPs are very sophisticated arrangements.
Yes.
When it comes to implementing infrastructure. To what extent the masses may be able to comprehend and decipher and analyze some of the information that is being presented by the proposers and the government, I leave that as a question Kenyans may need to answer. But I believe there is a community of Kenyans, professionals, public servants, politicians, who can be able to guide in terms of providing that public participation, and also the media to some extent. The challenge we have in this country is that people don't like having deep, thought-well conversations on anything. We want to look at headlines and we just discuss on the basis of headlines. Some of these transactions are very complicated. The financial implications are very huge. And we have had a challenge as a country of going into contracts, even in the times of Kenyatta and Moi and maybe in Uhuru Kenyatta, where government was entered into contracts that costed the Kenya as a country a great deal of resources and reputation. But if you look at the times of Kibaki, we did not experience this kind of turbulence, despite not having public participation as a key component of governance. So therefore, the question we ask ourselves, is public participation the cure, or is the issue of the kind of leaders or advisors that are providing leadership in this country that is a problem? In my own opinion, I feel that if you have the right people, providing the right advice, providing the right leadership, public participation is not necessarily required in terms of arriving at the right decisions in terms of governance in this country. But when you have the wrong people, as we are seeing right now, who are unable to provide the right leadership, we need public participation. So it's a balance of who at the time, the season we are in. The season we are in right now requires everybody's involvement, because we have seen the kind of leaders we have today, including the parliament. They are not able to carry the aspiration and wishes of the people to the point where they can be able to arrive at the right decision. But if we had a different kind of leadership, probably we would not be requiring public participation, because we have seen ourselves where we have been able to raise an economy from a very small economy to a large economy with very few men and women in office providing the right decisions at the right time and in the interest of the country. So we have to ask ourselves, when we come to the next election, do we need to elect the right people, so that we don't have to always involve public participation in every decision, that we can be able to elect people who we trust, that whatever they wake up in the morning and do is in the interest of the country, and for us is to be able to be part and parcel of that decision? Or do we always have to make sure that we just elect anyone, and for the next 5 years, we'll be in every public participation forum trying to make the right decision? We cannot be a country that is always in an election mode, because we have seen these public participation events. They have become like campaign forums where the one who supports the administration and the one who oppose, they are there fighting themselves out. And in that forum, we lose the value that we are supposed to discuss about the issue at that time. For example, if we decided today to discuss public participation about the SHIF and SHA, you will find it is an issue of the opposition versus the government, and we will whatever happen, whatever will is of importance there will not be realized, because they are very important issues that go into realizing universal health that cannot be discussed fully to a full extent in a public participation forum. But it is important to involve the public. So we need to find a formula where we are able to involve the public, but also the people in office are able to make the right decision for the people at that time.
Yes. You know, Mark, given the events surrounding the Adani deals and the kind of public outcry it caused, can we say has transparency and accountability risen in the country given the recent events?
We can't say there is some improvement on accountability because of the Adani deal. Simply because this is something which has been in the public, and the public has opposed it since its time, its inception. It only came to be stopped after the Americans, America found Adani to be corrupt. So I think the one issue which is affecting our country is leadership, as Engineer here has said. Because if you look at the kind of National Assembly, the kind of leaders we have in the National Assembly is a letdown to the Kenyans. Because one thing, we are not having some independent-minded politicians who can even question the executive whenever they go wrong. Listening to the former president, the former deputy president, Gachagua, yesterday, I heard him say within the cabinet, he was the only person who could say no whenever things were not right. And he was left as a long ranger in the cabinet. So I think we need to have leaders who can advise the president, who can advise the executive whenever things go wrong. I was watching when the president was giving the speech at Parliament, and when he mentioned about the cancellation, you found all the MPs were clapping and were in support of the president. And here are the same MPs who some few weeks ago were supporting the deal. So I think it's the kind of, we're having a National Assembly whereby they have a group thinking. Here, if we want to go do something, we must. The president has given us this assignment. He has given us this bill. This bill, we must support it. When the president says no, we must also say no. So I think that's where we have the problem, because the two arms of government seem not to be doing things independently. The executive is supposed to implement some of the things which the National Assembly passes through the budget. And the National Assembly is supposed to be an oversighting on the government. That is the executive. So if you find National Assembly which is not doing its oversight role well, then we are going to have issues in our leadership and in our governance, because we leave our Kenyans to be left with the nobody to question the government whenever it goes wrong. And here is a case of a broad-based government where we have a weakened opposition. Yeah, the ODM joining the government, leaving opposition which is not that strong even to question the government. So I think if we can fix on the type of leaders we elect, and we elect people with integrity and people who have some semblance of independence,
yes.
I think we can get it right whenever we are doing our things.
All right. There's a question about oversight I want to ask, but I'll do that after this short break. Don't go too far. This is Good Morning Kenya.
The Kenya Medical Training College, KMTC, is delighted to announce its 93rd graduation ceremony scheduled for Thursday, December 5th, 2024 at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, Nairobi from 8 a.m. Graduates are reminded to pay a non-refundable graduation fee of 4,000 shillings using the payment details provided on the screen. Graduation gowns can be collected at the college headquarters, and the graduation booklet is available for download on the KMTC website. For more details on the graduation, training programs, intakes and application procedures, visit www.kmtc.ac.ke. KMTC, training for better health.
Technology has become a crucial part of our society. Without technological advancements, so much of our everyday lives would be drastically different. As technology develops, it strives to fulfill the changing needs of society. This means that technology exists to help us achieve the things that we wouldn't be able to achieve without it. Take on Tech looks at the advantages and downside of technological innovation in a world that is becoming increasingly dependent on new digital technologies. Every Monday at 10:30 p.m.
Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Good Morning Kenya here on KBC Channel 1, and this is Eye on Politics. Before we went on air and Mark was speaking, something clicked in my mind. And Engineer, I want you to talk about, with all these happenings, where does that leave the oversight role of Parliament?
You know, an office is as good as the people who occupy it.
Yes.
And the roles and responsibility of that office can only be realized if you have the right people in that office. So Parliament as an office of government is only good if it has the right people occupying it. But by the way of things, by looking at how things they are, I don't see Parliament as an independent organ of government as far as this 13th Parliament is concerned. This is a mere extension of the executive. And to the extent now that even the opposition, the main opposition party, ODM, is part of government, to the extent that we are seeing members of Parliament from the ODM in public forums defending the decision of government, even trying to say the Adani deal was good, the problem is corruption happened somewhere in India, but in the case of Kenya, it was good, then that raises the question of how able are our leaders able to distance themselves from corrupt leaders or corrupt events. If a corruption event occurs in America or in India, it does not make it clean in Kenya. A sin in India is an equal sin in Africa. And therefore, we are very sad to find that the former Prime Minister, through his men, is coming to tell us that the corruption that happened in India has no implication to the corruption that might have happened or may happen in Kenya in the future through the Adani deal. It's only that the president now overruled Wandanyi and said, no, we are cancelling the entire process. So that now leaves the question of who is there to check the government. Because for a long time, that has been the responsibility of the opposition party, which is majorly ODM, which is the party of Raila Amolo Odinga. And therefore, we don't have any organ, whether within parliament or outside, that can be able to provide us that surety that we have an arm that can be able to check the government. And that leaves the people. And effectively, the young people on social media has been very, very vocal in terms of pronouncing itself against some of the decisions this government has taken. And one way or another, the mainstream media has been forced now to follow up on these issues that the young people are discussing on the social media circles. If it was another time, the media, the mainstream media would be able to control the narrative. But as it is now, whatever is happening in the social media spaces has found itself in the mainstream media, and therefore it's able to pronounce itself into big headlines on newspapers that are able to check the government. If Nelson Amenya did not have the platform of social media, the Adani deal would have gone through, because these people would have said, we have no deal with Adani, because that's what they claimed as far back in June. They said we had no deal, only to come and provide us with evidence that showed clearly Kenya was having a deal with Adani. Remember the first time they denied that there was no Adani deal. Only later, when the evidence was provided through social media, then they were able to say, truly, yes, we are having a conversation, and this is to what extent we are having the conversation. Immediately after the cabinet was dissolved, they signed another deal with Ketraco, meaning they have been having conversation with Adani for a very long time, but in secrecy. An issue where even the mainstream media was not able to provide direction on that issue at that time. Parliament was not able to tell us what was happening. It's through the young people leaking some of this information that we were able to see. So in terms of oversight, Parliament cannot be able to give us the surety that they are able to provide oversight. Mainstream media, I think they are doing a lot of catch-up. So we leave it to the young people in their social media spaces. Let them continue providing us with the information we require.
Mark, in terms of governance, where are we heading now?
I think we are heading in the wrong direction, given the status of the current state of affairs. And I think we need to look at, because we have tried to fix things through the normal, or rather through the current constitution, but they don't seem to be working. So I think we need to rethink our 2010 constitution. We see where there are gaps, where we can put some checks and balances. And one way of doing it, I think we need to go back to also to the NADGO report, which had given office of the opposition some power in terms of supporting it, getting it some support from the government, so that we can have some structured opposition which can check on the government. Because on where we are now, I think if we continue like that, things will only continue to be worse, and that will not be good for our country. So I think, one, we need to look at if we can amend some of the clauses in the Constitution. And also there is one area which I've seen needs to be addressed, because when we passed the 2010 Constitution, one goal was to reduce the powers of the president. But I don't think that the powers were reduced that much, because we still have some powers of the president, whereby he's the one who nominates the chief executives of corporate parastatals. He's still the one who nominates he has a hand in the board of directors of some of these parastatals. So I think we need to check on some of these things, whereby we can have a balanced power, separation of power between the executive and the legislative arm of the government. Something else also needs to be done is we need to do a lot of awareness to our people, so that whenever we elect our leaders, we look at people with high integrity, people who can stand in times of oversight, so that we don't have a parliament whereby it's only there to rubber stamp whatever the executive wants to be done. So I think if we can correct some of the things within the society by electing the right people, we check on the 2010 Constitution, maybe we can get it right. And also I think we need also to educate our people whenever we have elections, to have a thorough interrogation of these people, so that we can know those who are telling us the truth and those who are just lying, so that they can give those, they can get those seats. Because where we miss the point is only at the election point. Because the moment we elect people who have no interest of the society, then we miss it from there.
Engineer, are we likely to see the end of money-driven politics, especially at the grassroots level, where some people feel, if I've not eaten your 200 shillings, I'm not going to give you my vote? Are we likely to see the end of money-driven politics?
That is a desirable position that we should all desire to arrive at come 2027, where money may not have a lot of influence in terms of the decision we make as a country. But we also have a problem as a country. We are very forgetful. We will wake up 2025 next year, June, and the events of this year, June, may fade away into history, and we may not even remember that we had a finance bill that brought us problem, and now we have another finance bill of 2025, 2026, and we'll move on. So that is the unfortunate thing with this country, where we forget very easily. The other question I want to ask myself is that this conversation we are having here, is it in every household in this country? We have a country of 50 million thereof. How many of us are discussing this issue to this extent? How many are carrying this discussion to the extent that it's not a tribal discussion? How many are carrying this discussion to the extent that when my MCA or my MP or my senator is seen to be close to the president, I am benefiting? So we need to ask ourselves, to what extent or how deep is this conversation? Maybe it is just in the social media circles, it is in the morning TV like we are having today, and that is the end of it. So we need to first find a way that this conversation about election and money is deepened to the extent that even the mwananchi at the ground knows very well that if he receives that 200 shillings, he or she has not only sold her soul or his soul, he has sold the soul of the nation. And therefore they must resist firmly the temptation to take that bribe. And I want to encourage the church to say no to donations from politicians, to the extent that even the politicians will not have any room to give donation, because that has been the platform they have used to give churches, and to some extent now they have given the people. Because at the end of the day, churches are built by people.
Yes.
So when a politician comes and gives you 5 million in a congregation of 200 people, it's like he has donated 5,000 shillings for every member of that church. And therefore that member of the church will not have any burden of raising money to build that church, which is what we do in every locality we have in this country. We are called upon by the church in a congregation of 100 or 200, bring your 1,000 every month, and at the end of the year we have 2 million. So if one MP comes with 5 million, he has contributed for the 2 years for every member of that church, and he has won the hearts and minds of those people. So if we can resist that temptation and say, as a people, we will build our own churches with our own money. But we want leaders who can be able to build resources for the entire country so that everybody can have money in their pocket. Because what we have right now is a government that has been in place for 2 years.
Yes.
And at every corner, even in the public service, people are crying there's no money. So when the public service is crying that there's no money, that they cannot be able to run the business of government because there's no money, then how do you expect the rest of the country to be? Because in this country, government drives business, government spends, and then the rest of the country spends. So when the government is not able to spend, then what is happening in many households today that depend on government-driven businesses? When the private sector is struggling because government is not doing business, it has no money. When you ask yourself, yet you can see a few people who are able to donate 5 million in a church. So if you allow those people to continue moving around with that kind of money, come the next general election, we will be so hungry, we will be so broke that people will take that 200 shillings and vote for that because they have given up hope. We don't want to reach that point. So let us have this conversation as far as it can reach, and let's remain faithful to the values of this country. That corruption is not one of the things we uphold as a country. Voter bribery has to be rejected by every part of this country so that we can be able to arrive at the right decision when it comes to choosing leaders. We are where we are because we chose the wrong leaders. And we are not going to cure our problems by changing the constitution at every corner. What we need to do is remove bad leaders from our governance. The constitution is good. We have the best constitution. What it lacks is the right people to drive it.
Yes. You know, speaking of donations, let's graduate this conversation to that level. And one of the things that happened over the weekend, actually yesterday, the president defended his stance and reiterated his unwavering support in giving donations to the church. He said, I give donations to the church for faith, not political gain. What do you think of that, Mark?
I think I don't think the president is being sincere on that statement, and I know why. Because you know the church prepared him. The church made him the president through a lot of engagement with them. They gave him the support. And I want to say giving is not bad. And the Harambee, which was started way back by the founding president, was a good idea. And the only problem we have with the Harambee is when people abuse it for their own selfish interests. And I think when the Jay-Z's stormed Parliament, the president came with a proposal that he was going to stop these Harambees. And I think within a period of about a month or so, you could not even find a politician giving any money to any church. But just after some time, when things had cooled down, the first person to break that law was the president. He went to, I think, to a church in Nyahururu or somewhere, and he gave them some money to finish the church. So I think is one thing saying we are stopping, and is another thing of the giving. So I think one we need to have is we need to have a structured way of fundraising, so that it does not get to be abused by the politicians. Because one thing I'm sure is if we make fundraising to be just open like that, you'll find a situation whereby the most people are going to be elected in these elective posts, MCAs, MPs, and senators, and what have you, are going to be the people who give a lot during these fundraisings. And that is one way of even cutting off the best leaders. Because you'll find somebody is a good leader, he can do better than these wealthy politicians, but he will not get that chance simply because he cannot give money in those fundraisings. So I think it's a conversation which needs to be continued. We need to go back to the people, and our Kenyans are very much enlightened, and they know what is good for our country. We can get good views from the public. We can get good views from professionals, whereby we can have a good way of fundraising. Because I think if we leave it to the leaders, we might not get it right. I just saw in the newspaper today the Senate refused to. The Senate objected the fundraising bill, simply because whatever they are saying is that the fundraising is going to put them away from the public, which is not the case. So I think Harambes are most of the things we have seen being done by this money we get from the Harambes have been good for the community, because if you go back to the village, most of those churches were built through fundraising. We have even some schools. We used to call them Harambee schools. They were built by people through fundraising. So if we can structure the way we do the fundraising, I think it can be a good way of helping our people. But if we leave it to the politicians, then we still have issues, because it will give us the wrong leaders, it will give us the wrong people, and we still have the same problems.
Engineer, President Ruto trying to defend his position on donations to the church. Can this help him win back the church? Because it seems the church has started to distance itself from him. And what structured way can be applied to fundraise, especially without involving politicians?
Unfortunately, today, when you speak about the church, it's not one homogeneous entity, as it were maybe 30 or 40 years ago. Today, we have what we call the mainstream churches, the Catholic, the Anglicans, Presbyterians. Those are considered to be the mainstream churches. Then we have the emerging evangelicals. We have also the Pentecostals, and we have even others that are coming up, especially with the young people. And therefore, when you speak about the church, it's no longer one entity, as it were those days when we had the National Council of Churches of Kenya. When it pronounced itself, then you know the church has pronounced itself. And therefore, I am worried that this conversation about donations will continue to further the divisions within the churches. And probably that is what politicians probably want, where We leave out the mainstream to go away with their old folks. We focus on these Pentecostals or evangelicals who are able to, they are attracted to our kind of politics and our money because they don't have the financial strength or the financial muscle the other mainstream churches have, and therefore they'll be easy to be swayed through our donations. And therefore we may end up having where the Kenya Kwanza administration and maybe the politicians in this country will focus more of their time and resources and their donation to this, as far as this is concerned, to those churches that are able, that are willing to walk with them this journey of preaching the gospel. Where they are preaching the gospel of Christianity, they are also preaching the gospel of politics. That will definitely divide the church. And that is very unfortunate. But I believe as long as the other section of the church remains firm and vocal, there are also Kenyans who will listen to them and will identify themselves with the concerns the church has raised to that extent.
Yes.
When the Catholic bishops made that pressure, it caught the attention of the whole world and even the president himself. And that's why today we are discussing about donations. If the Catholic Church did not take that position, then business will be as usual. So we want the church to continue at whatever point, where you agree or disagree, continue voicing your concerns. 2-3 years ago, we are forgetting we had Shakahola. People died because of being led by the wrong gospel. Okay? So let us be very careful. Wherever you identify yourself with, are you identifying yourself with the right sect? Because 2 years ago or 3 years ago, people died in Shakahola. And we are behaving like we've forgotten. So people may not die in Shakahola, but we may die in this bad politics when we continue receiving money. So we need to be very careful with who we identify ourselves with. Yes.
You know, sometimes even the churches invite these politicians to these events, but now henceforth, should there be rules of engagement in terms of how and the reason why they invite these politicians to their churches?
Yeah, sure. One thing I think we need also to say here is that even the churches have issues because there seem to be a lot of mushrooming churches everywhere, and every pastor wants to have a share of these the congregation. And I think one thing which we need to also do is to regulate and streamline the way we get these churches. And something else also is also on the part of the Christianity, because even our faith, we don't seem to be very firm on our faith, simply because whenever whenever somebody has a church, the most immediate things he wants to think about is have a well-built church, a big church, whereby he can get more people. So I want to say on the part of giving, we seem to be abusing the giving part of it, because giving was meant to be secret. Because the same way we do our offerings, whenever we go to church, we are given that basket and you are told to give your offering. You don't go to the podium and say, today I'm going to offer 200 or 1,000 shillings.
Yes.
Though the same way is supposed to be done whenever we want to give some support to the church. Just give it as an offering. You don't publicize it. If you want to give it 5 million, just go get the account number of the church, you do it, and you don't, and even the bishop is not supposed to announce, Mr. President, the minister, or whichever has given this and this. Because once you publicize it, now it brings another another phase.
Exactly.
Now you want to show the church you are the one who has supported it. So what does that mean? When the right time comes for you to seek for votes, you want the church to give a hand.
So that is a quid pro quo situation.
Yeah, so we need to have we need to have a way of how we give this fundraising.
All right.
It's not supposed to be publicized.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a secret way of supporting the church.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take a very short break. We'll be right back with this conversation. This is Good Morning Kenya.
Inspector, kuja hapa karibu kwa gate ya Vitimbi Hotel. Kuna kazi kwa hapa.
Wamefika, watu wamefika, wako kila mahali kufanya hivi kuchika TV.
Kwani nini imetokea?
Unyalingika, twende tukajifiche. Nisweki na wama balua.
Moja kwa moja. Kwa kari. Moja kuja. Moja kwa moja. Wacha vita bwana. Wacha mbalize. Wacha vita. Haya. Unapiga masa.
You discontrol Makuapa. How can you say kneeling down and lifting your hands in the air and saying, I am sorry 10 times is beyond this control?
You want fake money, utanjipata pambaya.
Wait, come in. Who told you it is fake? You know I don't deal with fake money.
Then wait for your suspension letter at the principal's office.
Suspension for just saying I don't like the student leadership. FIFA! Kinyaji tuache kulia matuendelee.
Thank you for staying with us. This is a Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Megwe. Eye on Politics continues. And now we graduate these conversations to events of yesterday in Murang'a, where the former deputy president, that is Rigathi Gachagua, said something that is going to make a political outfit that will make the 2002 Rainbow Coalition a dwarf. Let me start with you, engineer. What do you think of that?
Well, it is a very interesting times we are going through, where somebody whose political career appeared to have been dimmed, but suddenly he's enjoying a lot of support from his home base.
Yeah.
And beyond just enjoying that support, he has created this political awakening that is so huge within that region, that truly, as he says, this might dwarf the 2002 general election, to the extent that if you look at the votes that Mount Kenya region contributed to this administration, which is around 4 million votes plus 1.2 million for Raila, that's around 5 million votes to the whole electoral process.
Yeah.
Yet it has the potential of providing close to 8 million votes or 10 million votes, going by the numbers. It's a region that controls 25% of the population. And therefore we are looking at, if you have 50 million people, we are probably looking at another 8 million, 10 million votes from that region. So if you can be able to make sure to rally those votes to wake up and vote, and they are known to be to do that very well, in every subsequent election, we have seen them being rallied to come together on one voice, on one cause, and they wake up very early in the morning and they vote on one direction. Then Gachagua, if he's not in the ballot, then he will make that person in the ballot a leader. That is the kind of confidence he's exuding. And I just believe that if he's more organized in terms of how he takes stock of this capital, then definitely this is something he can go and cash in come 2027. The Mount Kenya region feels betrayed. Even the Mount Kenya East, where we thought they had enjoyed now the deputy president office, we can see the enjoyment is not there. With the events that happened in Embu, we still feel like Gachagua is still a very popular person, even in that part of the region. And therefore, whoever keeps saying that Mount Kenya is divided, I think that's something they need to ask themselves, really. What part of Mount Kenya is divided? And that's a question that needs to be answered as we continue.
Yeah. Do you believe that as it stands now, the former deputy president will be a kingmaker in the next general election?
I said it here sometimes back that whether Gachagua was going to be beached or not, he was going to be a force to reckon in Mount Kenya region. If any politician who does not believe sympathy can propel somebody to a very influential position, is not a politician. Some few months before, Gachagua was struggling to be a kingpin of Mount Kenya. We could see him moving to all corners of Mount Kenya, but he could not even manage to restore the kingship from the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta. But the events of the impeachment have even given him more influence. And we can see in the coming days and coming months, we are going to see, I think, a more influential former president who is going to governize the Mount Kenya region in one party, which is going to negotiate with other regions. Our politics being local, I think one thing which the President Ruto managed to do in Central Province was to divide it, which worked very well for him. And I think it was the same script when they mooted the impeachment motion. They wanted to divide the Central Province so that they can get some votes and get other votes from Nyanza Province. But I don't think the plan has really worked. It's going to be a different ball game because if the events of the last week are anything to go by, I think the Central Province seems to have moved, and I'm seeing a situation whereby in the coming months we are going to have a political party for Central Province, which has not been there for the last since 2022, because you remember they went into election where they supported the president without even a party, and they were being asked, how do you go to an election, you are going to support a president and don't even have a party? So I think this time they want to, listening to him yesterday, he seems to have gotten it right. That is for any region to have a proper bargaining power, you must have a party. So I think there is going to be some realignment, and I see Gachagua being kingmaker in 2027.
Do you see what, engineer, will be likely, from where you stand, what are the likely rules of engagement for any person who wants the mountain to coalesce around him for a presidential seat?
Definitely the mountain, economic interests come first. At the moment, the mountain is suffering a lot because the issues that they canvassed around to be part of this government were issues of milk, coffee, tea. And if you look at it right now, from the state of the address the government the president made last Thursday, milk production has gone down. That's an area that is of concern. The coffee bill, the tea bill, the reforms the deputy president was advancing, there is no direction on that issue. So when it comes to the economic interest of the mountain, I don't think they've been able to benefit as much as possible. When it comes to small businesses, most of the businesses in the country or in Nairobi and that region, they are run by people from that Mount Kenya region. Most of them are struggling. The economic situation of the country overall is not one that can be celebrated. Investors are shunning from this country. We don't have ease of access to credit or financial inclusion is becoming a challenge. The taxes are overburdening many Kenyans, including those from the Mount Kenya region. So you find the economic interests will form the key and most integral conversation that will happen between any person who will be running for office. Number two is betrayal. If they sense this person can betray them, they don't care whether you are bringing what kind of money, what kind of a girl, they will not work with you. So this time around, the issue of betrayal will also form the key element. It will not be on the table. That one will not be on the table. But it will be something they will look at you in the eye and say, we don't trust this person. You may write numbers about economic numbers, inflation, whatever you do. But the issue of betrayal, you cannot put it on paper. Somebody has to look at you and be able to believe, to feel that they trust you. So the person who will present themselves in terms of forming an alliance in that region must be somebody who can be trusted on face value. When you shake hands, when you look at each other eye to eye, you must bring confidence. And that's how, there are things you may not be able to put on paper. The Western Kenya bloc was able to put it on paper 30%. But there are certain things you may not be able to put on paper that somebody will look at you and say, this one, we can walk this journey together. So economic interest, but the other issue is betrayal, because they cannot afford to be betrayed ever again.
Gentlemen, in the interest of time, I'll give you a minute to give your submissions. I'll start with you, Mark.
Let me say, as we approach the end of the year, I call upon our leaders to think of policies that are helpful to our people, so that we have, as we cross the year of 2025, we hope the government is going to do things in a different way. And we hope the government is going to be a government that listens to its people. And we pray that also our leaders are going to change. And we hope we are going to see people who are going to be people-centric. And on part of governance, we pray that we are going to have some improvement as a way of running the affairs of our country.
Engineer.
Thank you so much for hosting us here. But for me, I just want to call upon the government. When Kenyans went to vote for this administration, they were voting for an administration that they can have confidence in, that they can know that every decision that is made by that government is in the interest of the people. When we see the government struggling or stumbling in terms of making the right decision, it creates fear and worry among Kenyans. So we want to call upon the president to bring in confidence. When we see advisors saying one thing and him taking a different decision, when we see him speak about abductions, but the abductions are still continuing to the extent now even an opposition leader from another country has been abducted in this country, we all feel we are not safe. So therefore, he needs to restore our sense of security, our sense of economic prosperity, our sense that we are a progressive democracy, that the region can be able to respect and find a direction in. Yeah. So that everybody can continue celebrating Kenya as it has been celebrated for many years. So therefore, we are calling upon the president to restore the confidence and the sense of positive direction this country has enjoyed for many years by making sure that the structures of government are working well for the interests of the people and the interests of everybody who is here, whether they are foreigners, whether they are citizens of this country. Everybody needs to feel safe politically, economically, and socially.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. That is Engineer Crispus Wathimba, who is a governance expert, and also Mark Dingo, who is a political analyst, joining us here on Good Morning Kenya for Eye on Politics. This is where we cap Eye on Politics. My name is Mike Migwe, and I would, before I leave, I'll let you to know that the Parliament will be sitting throughout this week, starting today. Today, the proceedings will start at 2:30 p.m. and starting tomorrow, every proceeding will start at 9:30 a.m. and you can tune in to KBC Channel 1 because we will be bringing those proceedings live. My name is Mike Migwe. Keep it KBC Channel 1. Good Morning Kenya continues shortly with Vivian Ndegwa.
Pollution might not be a major concern to most of us, but it is among the leading causes of death in Kenya, and especially right here in Nairobi. The World Health Organization estimates that 19,000 people die annually from air pollution. Today we shift our focus on transport air pollution, its effects on the environment, and most importantly, its effects to you and me, and generally the human life. Transport is one of the biggest contributors to air pollution, and it affects health in many ways, both positively and negatively. Some of its benefits include access to education, employment, goods, services, and leisure, as well as incorporating physical activity into daily living. The transport sector, however, has its setbacks when it comes to the human health and climate change. For instance, air pollution, noise pollution, obesity, greenhouse gas emissions, and injuries. In this case, transport air pollution is one of the leading risk factors for death, but its impacts go even further. And according to Dr. Mwaniki, a climate change expert, air pollution is one of the main contributors to global disease burden.
Air pollution has many impacts. The main concern is its impact on health. Some of the biggest issues is things like asthma, heart diseases, stroke. It has also been linked to premature stillborns. And also some forms of cancer and also diabetes. So it's linked to a lot of diseases. And why this is the case is because when you breathe in that air, the way God made your system, if you eat dirty food, the stomach has acids and a way of getting rid of those elements that get into the food system. Same thing with water, but when you breathe in dirty air, the system did not evolve or was not created to live in polluted areas. So when you breathe in that air, it goes straight to your lungs, and then from the lungs, it penetrates to the bloodstream. So there is no protection mechanism. And because different chemicals are usually in the air, so once they get in the bloodstream, then they affect different organs differently. And that's why you hear it has these very wide health impacts. In the short term, when you breathe that air, you might feel wheezing, coughing. Those are the immediate impacts when you're in a smoky house. But when you're in a room like this or walking around the city, you might not experience those short-lived impacts. But once you breathe those chemicals and get into the bloodstream, then later on they'll have some impact to your health.
To some extent, transport pollution leads to effects on mental health, including risk-taking and aggressive behaviors, depression, and the post-traumatic psychological effects of accidents, which shortens life expectancy. In prenatal, air pollution leads to reduced growth. At birth, it leads to decreased lung growth, reduced lung function, lower respiratory infections, and developmental effects. Pollution concentrations on roads are relatively high, and commuters face unavoidable exposure during commuting as they are near the sources of emissions.
When a car passes through you, where you are seated or walking, you see the smoke, you smell the gasoline. Transport sector contributes around 40 to 50% of pollution in Nairobi. And the main reason is because there are very limited regulations on how to maintain vehicles.
Transport air pollution plays a major role when it comes to climate change.
Air pollution has a couple of pollutants that also do drive the climate system. And they're called the short-lived climate pollutants. These include particulate matter, things like ground-level ozone, NO2, which is more of an air pollution, but because of atmospheric processes, it does lead to formation of ozone. We do have other things like black carbon, which is an air pollutant, is a particulate, but also is a major driver of air pollution.
Greenhouse emissions, which could result from human activities such as burning fossil fuels and deforestation, release gases like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, among others, which have been proven harmful to the human body and the environment into the atmosphere, trapping the heat from the sun, hence causing global warming, which contributes to both health issues and climate change with severe temperature changes. Several strategies we can, however, apply to curb transport air pollution. For instance, promoting public transportation, which includes the use of buses, trains, and subways, which in turn reduces the number of individual car trips and lowers emissions. Active transportation, which involves walking and cycling, is another step toward reducing transport air pollution, not only in Nairobi, but across the country. The Kenyan government has put in effort towards transitioning to electric vehicles, which is a move that will help reduce emissions and also help curb the risk of transport air pollution. Urban planning is another key strategy as it involves designing cities to minimize travel distances, integrate residential, commercial, and recreational areas to reduce the need for long commutes. Building climate change resilient infrastructure or investing in infrastructure that adapts to changing climate conditions would also be a possible solution to address the transport changes in Kenya. Remember, let's unite to clear the air, safeguarding our health and the generations to come.
We found them, we released them. It's a way for the government to raise money.
Deductions made on the employer's side and all remitted to the government.
Taxes. The mention of the word taxation is a reminder to individuals and business persons of their mandatory role of contribution to finance government.
Technology has become a crucial part of our society. Without technological advancements, so much of our everyday lives would be drastically different. As technology develops, it strives to fulfill the changing needs of society. This means that technology exists to help us achieve the things that we wouldn't be able to achieve without it. Take on Tech looks at the advantages and downside of technological innovation in a world that is becoming increasingly dependent on new digital technologies. Every Monday at 10:30 p.m.
I never heard the music so sweet. I repeat.
Well, go on, me brethren, big things are going. Remember, each and every Monday we have to shell down the place with nothing but the best of smooth way the vibes in your favorite station. You know these things, man.
Alafu kila Tuesday, kata simu tupo side giving you Kenyan music from the 254.
And of course, you can spice up your Wednesday by enjoying blazing hot hip-hop and R&B jams.
We don't got no label. She say she want bottles.
Vibes and vibes as we go all across Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, all the way to Tanzania to give you nothing but the best on Afro Thursday. Make sure you make a date with us each and every single Friday. With me, DJ_Liza Diva.
DJ Colda.
And me, Wanjiko. This is Club One Extra.
Unanifanya nisikie kunyongwa. Hatija ai, money especially ukisonga.
Inspector, kuja hapa karibu kwa gate ya Vitimbi Hotel. Kuna kazi kwa hapa.
Watu wamefika wako kila mahali kufanya hivi kuchika TV.
Kwani nini imetokea?
Unyalindika, twende tukajifiche. Nisibeki na wama balua.
Moja kwa moja. Moja kwa moja. Wacha vita bwana. Wacha nimalize. Wacha vita. Haya. Unapiga masa.
Welcome back. My name is Vivian Degwa and Good Morning Kenya gets to continue. Right now, we talk about climate and our topic of conversation is climate change and psychological impact on vulnerable populations, specifically in the country that is Kenya. And joining me for this conversation, I have my panelists already here with me, and I will start introducing them from my immediate left. We have Doreen Washira. Doreen Washira is the lead psychotherapist at Rabah Care Center. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Vivian.
All right, right next to Doreen, we have Festus Odingo. Festus is a climate data expert. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, and then on the far left, we have Sarah Mabanja. I got it right? Yes, yeah. Sarah Mabanja, and she is from Gale International.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show. All right, so we get to talk about climate change and psychological impact to the vulnerable populations of this country. And before we just get into that, COP29 just concluded. It happened from the 11th to the 22nd of this month at Azerbaijan. So maybe if you can just mention a bit about what the focus was on matters climate, just a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks so much. I think the historic COP29 was, I think it was all about climate action and what finances actually needs to go in that. And this call actually was from the Global South to really see how the greatest polluters actually could support the climate financing aspect of it. And we saw the historic walkout from the negotiations room when they couldn't reach a deal. I think it happened at a peak when the developed countries actually mentioned $250 billion. And then they had a few days and they made it actually to 300. Well, still below what we really expected. But I think that there's need for some self-consciousness towards climate action itself, so that people, well, worst part of it is that the countries actually who suffers the most contributed less to that, and that is the bottom of the conversation. So worst polluters need to take action, they need to take responsibility, and see really what they can do about it. But at least $300 billion is something to go by to start with. So why not?
Okay.
Yeah,
so that's what has been happening in the international,
But of course, there are also other elements of negotiations. The previous COP mentioned that aspects around moving from fossil fuels to something else, like renewable energy. So that didn't really get the momentum as we expected. So it shifted really much on the financing aspect.
All right, let's shift gears now to just Kenya in particular. Maybe if you can just tell us the highlights on Kenya's climate change right now. What is our highlight when it comes to climate?
I would say that what is happening about climate change in Kenya is that first, it's a reality. It's happening, and we have to accept that climate change is happening today, and it's not just happening, but it's affecting people's lives, it's affecting communities' lives. We have seen the negative impacts, and it's actually threatening. It's calling upon all of us. If I go back to what happened, especially in the beginning of this year, if anybody had not known what climate change was, at least we got to know now the meaning of climate change with the floods that we had, with the landslides that we had, some communities being swept away. It's something that we've never had in Kenya. Seeing a whole community swept away, life coming to a standstill, no education, no movement, and especially in the city. A city turned into a lake, people using boats in the city. Actually, these are the realities that we need to accept and think about. And so we cannot continue sitting in our comfortable places and saying that there is climate change happening in the world. It's now climate change happening in our communities. It is affecting us directly, and we cannot deny it. So we have to wake up and do something. Yeah.
And maybe just to get to echo that and pose a question to you, Madam Doreen, what's the psychological impact of climate change to people generally?
Right. Thank you, Vivian. I'll start by saying that the climate change has a significant psychological toll on vulnerable populations. And this we mention women, children, people with disability, and also the elderly. And so the psychological toll becomes so much, and also with the disparities that we know that they are there. And we see the issues around issues like gender-based violence, gender inequality, the distress gets high levels, and that brings about levels of anxiety, depression, and also issues like post-traumatic stress disorder. Because what we look at when we hear of climate change is issues like drought. We don't see beyond that. We see floods, and we don't think about what is the aftermath of these people who are experiencing all this. And I think mental health integration in all these things becomes very, very important, because if we don't take care of that, then that becomes another crisis. Because climate change and mental health, if it is not looked at, then it brings about the mental health crisis.
And you know, Kenya experienced the worst droughts in like the last 40 years. Last year, you know, in 2023 we got to experience the worst drought, and this year we have experienced the floods, and they have been crazy. You know, a lot of people got to suffer directly from the floods that happened early this year. Was it early or mid?
It was early
this year. Early this year. Maybe just how is this, you know, impacting us directly, you know, as a society? And from the drought that happened last year, how is that impacting us to date right now?
Yeah, I think from the Kenyan perspective, we got lots of floods during the long rains. We usually have the long rains within we call it the MAM, March, April, May, and then we have the short rains during the OND, that is October, November, December. What happened at that particular moment is that we experienced a lot of floods during late March, just the onset of long rains. But we also experienced that during the short rains. And remember, June, July, August was a long dry spell that translated to the drought itself. And during the onset now of the short rains, there are those flash floods that clears people of their communities and all that. Major effects, looking at the diversity of the population in Kenya, if you look at the women, what happens? It means there's no clean water that they can actually get access to. And for instance, what do? If you look at the gender roles and responsibilities that they have to look for water. If you look at the distances that they cover to go get that water, the problem comes in when they have to walk long distances. What about the children? There's that education disruption. At that level, they can't go to school because of the distances. Probably they don't even have houses that they can actually stay in. And that joins now the mental health issues, because there's stress, there's anxiety, there's depression within those households. And it affects everyone. If you look at the women, in most cases, they're the caregivers in those households. What happened? What happens is that if they are the caregivers, they got probably the elderly in those households. They got the children themselves. So there's lots of burden that is actually put on their weight with regards to the kind of responsibilities and the roles that they have to assume within that household. So the impact goes really beyond what we see, and much of it actually is also economic. You can imagine the economic fabric of those communities. Say it's a fishing industry, for instance, and most women or most people actually are employed in that industry. What happens is that if there are floods, they can't work. If there are floods in certain cases, they can't get the right fish, the right fishing materials to actually have that economic activity continue. And take again, for instance, in the informal settlements, urban informal settlements, what happens? The transportation aspect, and we've seen that well elaborated there. You can't access jobs. Even the kind of sanitation that is there is actually also broken. The wash itself, water and sanitation is actually broken. And that leads now to health impacts. It means I cannot access good water, clean water. It means my exposure to waterborne diseases, cholera. That water, again, the water clogs actually also offers some kind of environment for brooding insects like mosquitoes that transmit malaria. So it's quite devastating. The impact of climate change is actually far beyond what we see to things that actually are unseen.
And some would say that our preparedness really sometimes is wanting. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I would agree with whoever is saying that. Because we saw that we waited until it happened. Yet we had actually heard what was happening in our neighboring countries. Climate change knowledge has been there, and we've heard about it from other countries that have been affected. And we have also attended forums and trainings outside this country on climate change. So that one alone would have actually called us to prepare ourselves and secure maybe some situations. But we are very slow. I will say we are very slow in doing things. And I would say again that climate change doesn't allow us to go with that pace.
Yeah.
If we go with that pace, we are going to lose the whole country. So we need to look at our infrastructures, look at these communities that are marginalized, those ones who are affected, and do something about it before it's late. Because if, most of the time we are used to waiting until people die, waiting until there is anger, waiting until people are sick. That is when we take the action. But I think at this moment we should have learned, we should learn if we haven't learned, make decisions that will save the situation in future. And this will only happen if everybody takes the responsibility. It's not about one person or one organization or the government. All of us are actually responsible. Every action that we take wherever we are makes an impact. And I think people need education again. We need more education about climate change because we are still living in denial, like I said. People have misinterpretations about climate change. You see, a whole village has been swept away, but people still want to misinterpret it in their own way. So I think we also need this knowledge and the education. We need a collaborative and a togetherness responsibility for us to do these things. Otherwise, I'm afraid that even the generation that is coming might not have a world to live in. I'm afraid that we are preparing our kids for professional development. We are preparing them with talents. We are preparing them to grow up and live. But where are they going to live? Are we preparing the world for them to live in? Where is that physical world that they are going to live in? Is it there? Is it still going to exist? That is my worry. Yeah.
That's an interesting one, right? That's a really interesting one. Well, there's this project that is already up and running, and I would love to get more information on it. That is the Weather and Climate Information Service for Africa project. Could you kindly just tell me a bit about what that project is about, sir?
Yeah, I haven't really delved so deep into it, but I think the major objectives of the project here is to get the right data out of communities, and that data actually needs to be used to monitor really what is happening around. Remember, I know we're going to have conversations around data and how it needs to shape policies. It needs to shape the financing aspect, and so I think getting the right surveys, getting the right information is quite important when you want to trigger the early warning systems at the right time, the right place, so that people actually don't get affected. We should actually record minimum displacements. Food security needs to be right, and all those issues. So in matters data, I think it should be at the central role when it comes to combating issues around climate action. Yes.
All right. On psychological disorders, maybe which are the most common ones that are associated with or that are rather observed in populations that are affected by climate change?
So we get to see acute stress disorder, and this is whereby people have gotten to a point of learned helplessness, and they cannot be able to do much about that. And with time, if that is not intervened, then it brings about issues around also depression and major depressive disorders. And also we see issues around post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is whereby there are form of flashbacks, people keep on remembering what happened, and also the intrusive thoughts. And also we get to see anxiety, so much of it. And some of these disorders, if there is nothing that is done, it gets to a point of people getting to even issues around suicide. Because if, for example, there are no interventions when these things happen, they are not supported, or if they are supported initially, nothing is done after that, then what happens is that we get to see many people getting to a point of feeling every time there's that trigger, it's like a time bomb that is yet to come. Because if they know this is what happens year in, year out, and nothing is done, then people get into a form whereby they're even hyper-vigilant, that they cannot be able to do their normal duties without thinking this would set in. And we see there are people who are able to manage that for just a long period of time, but the others who cannot be able to get to such extent. But I must say that you realize that human beings have such a capacity within them, but it can only be to some extent. So if there is nothing that is done, no support, they are not taken through this therapy, counseling, and so that some of these disorders can get to the extreme. And we get people now being on psychotics, drugs, and they can only be able to operate when they are on medications. And so for me, prevention becomes very key before we get to that form. And this can be done if there are interventions that are put in place, especially integrating, because we see there are many things that are being done, like we see people responding when some of these disasters strike. But now, in the part of that responding, then there must be integration of mental health services right away from the community level. So with this, it is able to be a sustainable way, because we have to ensure that we integrate mental health services and ensure that they are sustainable. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, weather forecast is of importance. And maybe if you can just tell us, you know, more or deeper on the importance of just accurate weather forecast.
Yeah, accuracy.
Yeah.
Accuracy is very important. Normally, in Kenya, and I think weather scientists would be really better placed to give us more information, and having concerted efforts within various agencies and departments within the government. Just to mention the Ministry for Environment, the National Disaster Operations Center, the Kenya Meteo Department. I think that there's need to have some kind of cross-working relation when it comes to information that is relayed, when it comes to data that needs to be used, when it comes to weather forecasting. But they always have certain indicators that they normally use. Well, they also measure climate drivers, as you normally say. In Kenya here, I think they use what they call the IUDs, that is the Indian Ocean Dipole. They also have the ENSO, that is the El Nino, Southern Oscillation, and many others. And so they use this actually to see the kind of weather patterns that we have and all that. But of course, they also have various tools to collect the information. Now, it's not just the accuracy aspect. What worries me is if, say, the National Disaster Operations Center gets some information, could we actually, what we call cross-analysis, or maybe cross-comparison, to see this data and the other data? Is it consistent over time? Do you have some kind of consistency in that data, which is very important when it comes to statistics or when it comes to information? We have to have some kind of consistency. So that consistency could be measured from various agencies, but we could also, as an agency or as a department, actually see whether the values that we get when it comes to, say, temperature. If we say that in the early 70s, which is the reality, that the temperature was actually 29 degrees Celsius, and that early 2020s, the temperature is now actually at 30.5 degrees Celsius. And so that differential increase, 1.5 degrees Celsius, actually is actually in tandem with the global trend. So that it should be that way. We shouldn't say that we are really off the mark, or these are whiskers. So we can't say that. So accuracy in data is very important, because now it turns back to how we're going to use that information. If you don't get the right information regarding weather or weather forecast, it means we miss it out all. If I say that June, July August. Hypothetically, it's going to be, we're going to have some long rains. It's false, because we know how the pattern is. We have long rains in March, April, May, and we have short rains in October, November, December. But June, July, August, we have the long dry spells. But in some cases, we can have short rains or here and there that actually causes those flash floods. So we have to have that right information, and that information needs to get to different departments. It needs to serve the Ministry of Education, it needs to serve the Ministry of Health, so that they can actually plan. So if we get it wrong from the right duty bearers or the frontliners, that is the Ministry of Environment, then everyone also gets it wrong, because Ministry of Education, they're not well versed with these issues of weather, so they have to rely on another. And that's why we have all these conglomerates of ministries to work together, have concerted efforts. If there's data, then that data needs to be, of course, Kenya has really tried, and KNBS is doing quite a great job when it comes to data management and consolidating administrative data from various ministries, departments, and agencies to be used actually for tracking and even for formulating policy. And that's how the conversation should be. Get the right data, use it for policy for formulation. We don't start from policy and then we get back to look for data to actually see where to put the resources. You get from the data, it tells you we need this much to tackle these people, this impact. And so let's get a policy that actually aligns or speaks to what we got in the information. And let's put the right resources so that we see how that goes back. And we implement the policy. It shouldn't remain on paper. And I know there are protagonists on policy issues here that will actually tell you that we have so many policies which are actually on paper, but we don't see the implementation. We want to see policy implementation framework actually adjusted.
All right.
Yes.
And I want to pick from that, you know, policy implementation is one of the challenges that you're pointing out. Maybe if, Sarah, you can just tell us more about what are some of the other challenges that you'd love to point out that we are currently facing, you know, as a country when it comes to such matters?
I would say that climate change is moving us from one level of poverty to another level that is worse than today. I'm saying this because every day you wake up in the morning, there is an impact of climate change somewhere, and it has affected someone. Even someone who slept as an able person wakes up as a vulnerable person because of climate change. A woman who was stable in business or maybe in farming wakes up the following day because of climate change as a vulnerable person because her farm is flooded. She can no longer do the agriculture that she used to do. She can no longer produce food for her small family. A child who was continuing with her education wakes up in the morning and finds that her school is the shelter for people or communities who have been affected by the climate change. And so this child's education cannot continue because she has to wait. The road that leads to her school or his school is flooded. They cannot go to school. This old person in the village and even in the city who is sick wakes up to a new climate change challenge. They are affected economically, and you know, like if we rate most of the population of the old people in Kenya, most of them live in the village, most of them depend on livestock and farming. So they wake up and this livestock is not there. So this one takes us from one level of poverty to another level, and it's even worsening, something that is not expected. You look at the knowledge that we have on climate change, it's very limited. There are very wide gaps in knowledge. You look at even the language used in interpreting what climate change is. It's very technical. people are struggling to even understand that language. When you say mabadiliko ya tabia nchi in Swahili, it could be the right word,
but it sounds complex.
How is my mom in the village supposed to understand that mabadiliko ya tabia nchi means the climate change effects? So language is also another problem that is actually causing the communities maybe not to react, because they feel this one is not for us, it's for someone else. And then I'm looking at the education systems that we have. If we go to other countries, they revive their education system every year, depending on what is happening in their own environment. For us, life is normal. We have institutions that have Department for Environments. Are they working? What are they doing? You go to these learning institutions, we are preaching about planting trees, but they are cutting trees and planting kiosks near the schools. So what does that one mean? I mean, what are we really doing? So these effects are all over. They are affecting those ones in school. They are affecting those in the city. Look at those ones in slums. I happen to be a member of a group for the young people. We normally have sports every holiday for high school students. This time round, we didn't have them because the fields were flooded. There were no roads towards those sports fields, and some activities had to come to a standstill. So all of us are being affected in one way or the other. And these effects, the worst thing is that these effects are growing worse every day. And that's why I'm saying it's leading us from one level of poverty to another one. Yeah, if we look at the SDG goals, goal number 1 is that poverty. Yeah, we have to fight poverty, but what is the level of poverty in our country today? In our communities today? I'm worried. Yeah.
All right. Okay, as we almost come to a close, maybe if you can just tell us, you know, does the psychological impact on climate change differ from within age groups? Does it differ within age groups?
Yeah, it differs, and in the populations that we are looking at, when you look at the women, elderly, children, and people with disability, it differs. In this way, for example, if it is among children, of course, children can experience or can witness this kind of, you know, what is happening in terms of climate change. And you see, for them, the understanding at that moment maybe not be so deep at that moment when the experiences are there. And also, when you look at the people with disability, for them also, the way they experience it is so different with other populations. And when we look also at women, especially being the people who take responsibility of their families and, you know, they are carers and all that, it differs. For them, their way they experience is different from other populations. So when we look at it, and as I was listening to Sarah talk about all this, it brings and narrows down to what I look at as public trauma. Because you see, if we may talk of those populations, but also it is affecting us, and that's why we are discussing about this. When we witness it, when we see the news and everything, it affects all of us. And so that's where we need to see how to come, to see how we can be able to be a support one to the other, so that we don't get these psychological effects because they affect all of us. Yes.
All right, we need to wind up on this conversation, and maybe Mr. Festus, you can do that for us. You know, we've talked about the knowledge on climate change needs to be more out here. You know, people need to have knowledge on climate change more. Maybe just from you as a climate data expert, what would you say people need to know about climate change?
I think it has been mentioned here about education, and there was a light touch on SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah.
And if you look at goal number 13, goal number 13 has 8 indicators. There's only one indicator that does not apply to Kenya because it talks about small islands. Of course, they are greatly affected because some of them have disappeared, some are yet to, they're on the road to actually sinking, like the Tuvalu Island, Solomon Island, and all those small islands. When it comes to our case, we are actually reporting on 6 indicators out of the, so I would say out of the 8, we're reporting on 6. So there's only one indicator that we are not actually reporting on. That is indicator 13.31, which talks about mainstreaming education, mainstreaming knowledge on climate change into the education curriculum. So the Bureau has done quite some good job in reporting on all others. But remember, this data that does not necessarily come from them. It comes from ministry departments and agencies like the NDOC, like the KMD, and the rest. Could we get an avenue to actually also track this indicator, this particular indicator, tracking issues of education? So what elements do we really need to work on? There are certain organizations around here that are doing just the minimal part of it. They're creating actually educational materials that are actually accessible to children. For instance, just giving them information about drought, maybe just some kind of drawing. A tree was once green and blossomed at some point, now it's dry and it's only the branches that are actually left there. So they relate with it. They have an environment, maybe access to a river, that river has run dry. They have access to water, there's a tap that is drawn on that picture. They used to collect water there, the taps have run dry. So things, visual aspects of stuff that actually they can relate to. And this needs to go to the education curriculum. We need to have it quite deliberate, that we teach about Earth, about the universe, about climate change, about what is happening around us. But also we need self-consciousness, that as we walk around, what we do. Because we say there are things that long died, you were discussing in the background there, the 4K clubs and all that. That long died. How do we plant trees? If you're coming from the Lower Eastern, for instance, how do you plant maybe acacia trees, for instance, because it does well the other side? How do you do that on other platforms? So education has to be general, and climate change has to be right at the core of it.
Okay. Well, final remarks in just 30 seconds, please. Just 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm calling upon everyone to take responsibility, take a small step or a big step to make changes wherever you are, and we will grow tomorrow and survive the climate change.
All right. Final remarks, 30 seconds.
Data is very important. I think let's embrace data. Usually there are very, very many avenues that we can actually access data regarding climate. And I think the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics is one of those avenues if we can access. There are also very many organizations that are working around climate change, like PACJA and the others that are working on water issues, like WASNET. So many of them, civil society organizations that are actually at the forefront, but we also have other entities, other NGOs like yours that are actually working on issues of psychosocial, mental health, water, and the rest of it. Let's have concerted efforts. Let's not work in our own areas and then we say it's all done. Let's have one agenda, one objective, and we'll have it done.
Thank you. 30 seconds.
Together we are stronger. Don't suffer in silence. And let's know that a healthier mind makes a healthier planet. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us and just shedding light on this very important conversation that we have been having today. This is where we end this particular discussion, but don't you go too far. Good Morning Kenya gets to continue. In just a bit, I will be talking about a different topic, and that is international money transfer. Stay tuned for that.
Bye-bye to FOMO, the fear of missing out, by downloading the KBC Online app that gives you access to everything you love. Get the latest news, sports,
Faith Kipyego is a class
music, entertainment news, live radio, and so much more at the palm of your hands. To get the app, simply search KBC Mobile Digital App in your Google Play or App Store and download the app. Catch what you want, anytime, anywhere. Stay connected. Stay ahead with KBC Mobile Digital App.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Umepata msaada wote kutoka wapi?
Hata huo mzigo wa kwenda bodo sitisha. Usiupeleke mpaka nikwambie.
Iwapo Jasiri atafariki kwa kukosa matibabu, roho yake haitatulia milele.
Kaka kwa alidungwa kisu kwenye sherehe yako, wewe hata mshipa moyo hukugongi.
Mnigonge kwa lipi?
Na mtu anataka kuona huko ndani.
Sawa, shakuelewa huku kuishi watu. Kama angekuwa uniambia atakuona mnyama hapo ungekutuka, lakini mtu kuishi watu hapa ndani.
Nyinyi ndio mnajifanya mnakiuka amri yangu, si ndio?
Amri gani jamani? Mbura mambo gani unaofanya?
Found them, we released them. So it's a way for the government to raise money.
Deductions made on the employer's side and all remitted to the government.
Taxes. The mention of the word taxation is a reminder to individuals and business persons of their mandatory role of contribution to finance government activities and public services. Ways such as pay-as-you-earn, payee, domestic value-added tax, rental income tax, among others.
The taxes are collected from our incomes. It's collected from charging licenses. Taxing businesses' revenues through VAT. When we go to the shop to buy something, there's some taxes we pay there. When I buy a car, there's some taxes to pay there.
Because of this, it is the expectation of each taxpayer to receive top-notch services from the government after contributing from their hard-earned money.
In other countries where they were starting to digitize the whole process of collecting tax information in real time.
The ETR and Teams machines focus largely on VAT taxpayers, whereas eTeams focuses on both VAT and non-VAT taxpayers. So basically, previously the VAT taxpayers were around 250,000. With eTeams now, it's potentially millions of taxpayers that have been brought into this tax bracket.
The adoption of the new technology by KRA came with its own share of challenges.
The business people might not have the understanding or the knowledge of how the technology works. Because on the one side, KRA says by rolling out eTeams, they'll be able to collect taxes better using this particular technology. But in any technology rollout, there are certain steps that are useful to follow.
To make tax collection a seamless process for business owners, Ken Wanjau, the founder and CEO of Digitax, outlined some of the steps that could be applied to make eTeams less mystical to the users.
Have technology doing as much of the processes required. It issues an invoices, sends out an email to the customer automatically.
Actually, with eTeams, for very many businesses, it's probably the first big technology change they've had to do.
They say to whom much is given, much is expected, and therefore to the government, and more so the exchequer,
use the money wisely. We need to be able to see changes. We need to be able to see improvements in the country, in the government, in Kenya as a whole. And this is in the different counties.
So at this moment, I would say we are not at the position where we can confidently not in.
And we are back with a conversation that I had just mentioned earlier we will be having right now, and that is international money transfer, and to be specific, the KCB international money transfer. And joining me for that is Mr. Mange John. Mr. Mange John is from is the branch manager, Gateway House. That is KCB branch manager, Gateway House. And he's here to talk to us about the KCB International Money Transfer. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here to discuss more about this issue of international money transfer. Thank you.
All right, and just for conversations and sake and to just to start off right in this conversation, maybe can we start by defining what international money transfer is?
Okay. Right, that's a good place to start. International money transfer is basically the movement of money or funds between different corners of the world, different jurisdictions, different countries. And if we can go a bit to the history, the need to move money between countries or between individuals in different countries has been there for many years. As early as 1860, Western Union was already doing international money transfer, though in a very, not as efficient as what we do right now. They used to use what is called telegram, but still they used to move money between one country and another. We've come a long way from then. Right now, movement of money is actually real time. Anyone moving money from whichever point in the world, let's assume someone is in UK, transferring money from UK to Kenya is real time. So in a nutshell, international money transfer is the movement of that money between one country to another.
And maybe who is eligible for the KCB's international money transfer service?
Let me answer that question with an illustration. Let's assume we have someone who lives in Kilifi, for example, and he's gotten a job in Saudi Arabia, so he's relocated, and he starts working. Just like many of us, we will want to help out our families. This gentleman, let's assume he's called James, moves to Saudi, gets the job, starts working, but at home he has left his parents. He has left probably a wife, probably children, his siblings. And once he starts working, if he needs to move his money from Saudi to his family in Kilifi, that's where KCB comes in. So the eligibility is actually open to everyone at any corner of the country. So all James needs to do is go to an outlet in Saudi, an outlet that serves probably Western Union, MoneyGram, RIA, Transfast, and give them instructions that I would want this money to be received by my mother in Kilifi. Her name is so-and-so. And immediately those instructions are inputted on the system for, let's assume, Western Union. The same information is received at KCB, all our 207 branches. And once the eligible person walks to the branch, they are able to get their money. So anyone is eligible, provided you have someone who is sending you money from outside.
I know you've touched a bit on this, on the process of being able to do the money transfer, that is international money transfer. But maybe, are there any documentations that are needed that one should know about for maybe both parties?
So yes, there are. Let me go now to the details. using our illustration now, James has gone to an outlet in Saudi. What he does is give them the amount of money he wants to transfer, give them his name and the name of the recipient in Kenya. Once he does that, those details are inputted on a system and we are able to see the details from our side. So when sending, the documents he will need is his identification and then the information of the recipient. Now, this recipient, the same person in Kilifi, will walk into any of our branches. We have a branch in Kilifi. He'll go there. She will go there and present her identification. And there is a reference number that is normally given when someone sends money. So James will have to relay this reference number to the recipient. So the recipient will go with her ID or identification document and the reference number. With those two, we input them in our systems. We're able to verify and the person is paid. So it's a very simplified process where we've made it so easy based on the fact that most of the money that comes in is needed urgently. It could be to pay a hospital bill. It could be to pay for education. So we've made it so simple that the person just needs the ID, the reference number, and they get paid.
Yeah. And maybe just still on that, you know, everything right now has gone digital.
Yes.
You know, maybe how are you including, you know, that digitization also in your transfers? You know, maybe is this something rather you're looking into, or is this already something that has been rolled out?
I think that's a very important question, and as you put it, everything now is becoming digital. The fact that you are not near a branch should not deter you from receiving your money. So what we have done, and we're in the process of testing this, which should be rolled out very soon, is that we've put the money transfer service on our KCB app. So using the KCB app, you will be able to go to that app, select money transfer service, then you'll be able to see the various service providers. We are currently working with Western Union, MoneyGram, RIA, and Transfast. So you'll be able to see those. Then depending on whether you're receiving or sending money, you go to whichever partner you would want to use, and from there you get your money. So digitization is actually a big thing for us right now, because we would want to make it even more simpler for the customer, so that you don't really need to go to a branch, you can do it digitally.
So it's something you're also looking more into at the moment.
Yes. It's on testing phase, so very soon our customers will actually be able to use our app to be able to receive or even send money.
Maybe what are some of the benefits, you know, of the KCB's international money transfer, and maybe also we can touch on the impact it has on our economy as a country?
Okay. Let me start with the last part, the impact. The central bank statistics we have at the moment is that in September alone, the remittance inflows into Kenya were at $418 million. That in Kenya shillings will be about 54 billion shillings. So the impact of the inflows of money into the country is huge. Several years ago, we used to talk about tourism, we used to talk about agriculture, that's our major source of foreign exchange. But right now, the landscape is different. Inflows have become very integral. So the impact is actually there, because if this money does not reach the recipient quickly enough, then it may not have the value of the impact that it was intended to have. So the importance is quite big, not only for KCB, but for the country. The two major reasons why people send money, from what we've seen, is for upkeep, or for the household, if I can put it that way, or for investment. Now, for upkeep, it would be for school fees. It would be for a medical bill. It could be for the daily expenditure of the family. And this actually constitutes the bigger portion. Then there is the other part where people are sending money for investment. You find that someone is doing constructing their family home, or even investing in treasury bills, bonds, and the likes. So they use the same mode to transfer money here. So the importance of money transfer is actually becoming more and more as we go ahead.
Is there a maximum and minimum amount that one can send at a go?
The minimum and maximum depends on the service provider, our partners. But even as a country, we have a limit of $10,000, above which there is extra checks that we have to do. So anything above $10,000, you can still receive, but there are extra checks that will go into that, and that's guided by central bank. Yeah.
And the frequency?
No,
Is
there's
there a
no
limit
there's
to
no
the
limit to frequency. Only the amount.
Okay.
But you'll find that someone could be sending even 4 times a month, depending on how they are paid. In most jurisdictions, you find people are paid wages weekly. So at the end of the week, they will want to send. So you find every week there is an amount that they are sending. So the frequency, there is no limit.
All right. And when talking about this, of course, one will need to know just how secure their money is. So how secure are these transfers?
That's a good question. We look at money transfer in 3 ways. The safety of the money, what you've asked, the speed with which the money arrives, and the reliability. Now, as I said, in the 1860s, when money transfer was formalized through Western Union, it used to take a long time for that money to reach where it was going. But with time, technology has kept on improving to an extent that right now, the kind of systems our partners have, the kind of system KCB has, ensures that this money does not get lost. We've not had an incident where actually money transfer has, in essence, gotten lost. And it's basically because of the evolving technology that is there. The only thing that we really emphasize on our customers is to ensure that the reference number that they get, they do not share it. And we spend a lot of time actually educating our customers. And that's even one of the reasons we are here this morning, so that we can enlighten our customers on that. That reference number is key. It's very important not to share it out. Just have it relayed to the person who is going to be receiving the money. So the safety of money is assured because of technology and the verification process that goes through before we release the money.
Yeah, and still on safety, maybe what security measures have been put in place specifically to protect maybe one's personal information, you know, aside from just protecting the money, one's private information?
Okay. It's actually a major issue, data protection. And it's an issue that we are very conscious about at any transaction that we do. So when someone sends money, that information comes to us and only us. And the staff, us as staff as KCB, have gone through that training on data protection in such a way that we ensure that whatever information comes, that Vivian has received X amount of money, that information is only for Vivian, for me as the employee, and for either the sender or the receiver of the money. So there's a lot of training that goes into that, but also our systems are such that that information is not shared out. That information is well restricted. So whenever you're sending or receiving money, you can be comfortable that nothing will go haywire.
And you know, is one able to maybe track these transfers real time, and how do they go about that?
I mentioned that when the sender sends money, whether he's sending from Kenya outside or outside to Kenya, that information is received more or less real time, which means once the person sends the money, And just to mention, we have countries like Saudi Arabia, US, like UK, Germany, France. Those are the countries where we receive the hugest amount of money to Kenya. So once that person is in that country and remits the money, it's received on our side real time. So the only thing that the recipient needs is the sender to inform him that I have sent the money. And if he receives the information now and walks to a branch now, he'll be able to receive that money immediately. So he does not really need to spend time tracking it. It's real time.
Okay.
Once he receives the message, gets the reference number, he'll be able to receive the money. And the technology, as I said, the way that we are going ahead and putting this on our app, our KCB app, the same will apply. Once the money is transmitted, he'll receive a message, your money is has been received. He'll go to the app and he'll be able to access the money.
Okay, okay, so it's real time.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe are there systems that have been put in place maybe to try and counter matters to do with fraud?
Yes. The partners that we have are actually well-known global money transfer partners. And before we get into those agreements with them, there's a lot of due diligence that goes into that. Currently, the money transfer service providers are many. And we could partner with any, but we take our time so that we ensure that whoever we are working with has good what we call AML functionalities, anti-money laundering functionalities, so that when we partner, we are confident that there will be no incidences of frauds, incidences of loss of money. We also continuously do system audits. System audits ensures that our systems have not been hacked, our systems are not, there's nothing amiss within the system. And that's why we can comfortably say that as at the moment, it's a very safe, very secure mode of moving money between the different countries.
Okay. Maybe what challenges would you say you're facing with it? Because everything really must have maybe a challenge or two. So are there challenges that you would love maybe to point out that you're facing, and what you're doing to try and counter the challenges?
Okay. Yeah, and any activity that goes on will always have challenges. And one of the challenge we have is what you've mentioned, that at the moment you have to go to a branch to be able to get your money. That for many people becomes a challenge. We've gotten into a point where we would want to do our activities where we are, at the comfort of our homes, offices, wherever we are. So that's a challenge we took up, that our customers are saying, despite the fact that we have 207 branches in Kenya, they want that service here and now. So it's a challenge we've taken up and put it on the app. Another challenge is in certain countries, the bigger money IMT providers, we've not partnered with them yet in certain jurisdictions. And that's another challenge, because the person sending wherever they are, we would want them to do it comfortably. That in a certain country there could be transware, which we are not partnering with at the moment. So we are trying as much as possible to get more of these service providers to partner with us. So that's a challenge we've taken up also. So with time, you'll see more and more coming in to partner.
All right. Maybe you can just talk to us about the changes that you've had over the years with the money transfer since you rolled it out rather to date. What are some of the changes that you would just love to point out?
The movement of money transfer is evolving every day. Initially, before we were able to partner with the bigger players, we used to do it on our own, but it used to be within our boundaries. So with time, as more and more Kenyans are moving out, a lot of nurses are going to Germany, a lot of other Kenyans are going to work outside. It actually became very important for us to modify and find a way of serving these customers. So we were able to get on board partners one at a time, Western Union, after some time MoneyGram, after some time RIA, like that. And with time, we've been able to get more and more on board. And as we get more and more on board, it became also important for our systems to be upgraded. So every so often, we kept upgrading our systems. Upgrading to ensure security, upgrading to ensure speed, upgrading to give customers comfort that we are a reliable bank. So the journey has been quite a challenge, but we've been able to take it up and get to where we are. Currently, I think the level of comfort that any sender or receiver has is quite high. That they will not even think twice. I've received money, they'll just walk to KCB, they'll be able to get their money.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation and just getting to tell us more about what the KCB International Money Transfer is all about. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
all
you.
right. Right now, we have to go to a different engagement, and that is the engagement meeting between the Cabinet Secretary for Information Communication and the Digital Economy and the technology service providers. So I believe that live is ready. We can head right there right now.
Engage as an industry, and I really like to see that it is a quarterly engagement. First is to really thank all of you for the good job that you do. As an industry player, I've worked with many of you in the past. This is an industry you can be proud as a Kenyan. No matter which capital of the world you call, you've done a good job. Really, can we clap for ourselves? The experience in the digital space when you're in Nairobi, in our major cities, and even some of our rural areas makes us proud because of the work you've done. We have earned a name, the Silicon Savannah, an innovation and technology hub in the continent and globally, courtesy of the work that you've done, and it makes us very proud. Secondly, we have a special moment as a country that the country has set to enhance its transformation agenda. We are the Vision 2030 as laying the strong foundation, and currently in the last term of the development plan of the Vision 2030, we have the bottom-up transformation agenda with the 5 focus areas. One of it specifically touches our sector, the digital superhighway and creative economy, clearly opening an opportunity for all of us. So I think we stand at a great moment where we have huge opportunities ahead beyond what we've achieved. And we're looking forward to work with you. Chairman and Dr. Fiona said we have the 52% for government and 48% by the private sector. We really appreciate the work many of you have done to support us in this agenda. Connectivity, we are doing very well, and we really appreciate. We've also looked at how do we create something new, manufacturing our soccer. Thanks to Safaricom and the other partners, we really celebrate you. You've introduced a new industry which didn't exist in our country, the electronics industry. Can we clap for Safaricom and the team? We've also seen manufacture of fiber, which is a huge milestone. We're expecting to see the other electronics, the routers, the switches, and more so we'll go to radio network equipment and probably core network in the future, and really making Kenya a key technology country. On the systems part, we still see a lot of room to be done. Thanks again, we've started seeing collaboration from technology partners coming to support government in digitization. Our commitment of 48% is not only on connectivity. We want you to play a role in the actual digitization. Thanks to Safaricom, we are also doing the healthcare system. Thank you for that support. We still have a huge other ministries. We encourage the rest of you to start coming to talk to us. Which ministries would you like to help us to lead? Which sectors do you want to partner? We look forward to you supporting us on that. There is also growth of young enterprises. We were in Cape Town with Wasiri, and I was very pleased to meet very youthful entrepreneurs who are coming in our sector. We asked the big corporates to mentor these young upcoming enterprises. I think we were with the chairman of TESPOC, and to see young entrepreneurs in our sector. I think there is potential of growth of new enterprises which will create more job opportunities and more wealth for our country. We want to encourage more collaboration and partnership in this space. When we look at the network coverage, we've done very well. The caps was on smartphones and something is being done. On the fixed broadband connectivity, we have only 1.3 million connections. Our target is to have every home, starting with those who have power, to be connected with broadband connectivity. That's the opportunity you have as players. We have 1.3 million and there are potential of 9.6 million homes and businesses to be connected. We are looking forward to you, private sector, to help us make this happen. On government connections, we have 74,000 public institutions that we need to connect. We have 25,000 public Wi-Fis. We have the overall rising of the digital economy, the e-commerce, digital rise of digital platforms. We are looking at you to ensure these emerging wealth and growth areas, Kenya is not left behind. We do not want to just be facilitator, we want to be active players, and we are relying on you. I don't want to speak beyond there. Thank you very much, and we thank our Siri for the good job. She's an insider, and she's helping us now to move to the next level, and has interacted with many of you. Let's all support her and support our president so that this sector is one sector that it comes to 2027, the targets we've set, we make sure we have realized. And I think we'll have even one-to-one engagements going forward to make sure we achieve our targets. Data center is interesting space. We want Kenya to be a data hub, global. We will support you to make sure we realize that policies we've addressed, and we are willing to consider the challenges on way leaves. I think we're working with ICTA, we are working with Wasiri, with the COG, to ensure that that space, they still have few challenges, but I think these forums will enable us to resolve all of them. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you. You can see what you would have missed if Tanui had not spoken. Cabinet Secretary, the Minister of Information, Communication and Digital Economy, and all the distinguished players led by TESPOC, players of this industry. I have a few things to share with you, while cognizant of the fact that I need to be brief. The first thing I want to, ladies and gentlemen, to share with you is that just before the last general election, President Ruto made very wide consultations with the public on what they want Kenya to look like. He actually did that in a process that culminated in the signing of charters with the people of Kenya. The result of those consultations were twofold. The first one, which was captured in the manifesto, was the priority areas after winning the elections. Then the second one was the medium-term objectives. These priority areas, among others, were to bring down the cost of living, boost our foreign exchange reserves, stabilize the Kenya shilling, eliminate hunger, and create jobs. Those were the priority areas. But as a result of the consultations with the people of Kenya, the president also was able to summarize the main concerns of the people. Around 2022, our country was not doing very well. The prices of foodstuffs were very high. Our foreign exchange reserves were very low. Remember, there was even a struggle to buy fuel at one time because we didn't have enough dollars. This was a matter of concern. What was worse is that we were among the leading importers of food within the African continent. And some of this food was coming from Malawi and Zambia. This affected the entire economy and pushed the prices very high if you consider that some of the food we consume was also important for the manufacture of animal feeds. Our environment was also in a mess. Many small businesses were not working. So apart from those priority areas that you talked about, namely enhancing foreign exchange reserves, eliminating hunger, creating jobs, stabilizing our shilling, the president knew that he has a job to do for 5 years. His agenda is captured in the 5-6 pillars, which are medium term, to cover the 5-year period. Ladies and gentlemen, these 5, without any order of preference, include food security and agriculture, housing and settlement, medium and micro and small and medium enterprises, small businesses, universal health care, and of course, you have this digital superhighway to run the pillars, and now climate change and the environment. That is the president's dream. And it's important to reiterate this for the industry players because the president is aware that the family of service providers for technology will play a quintessential role in promoting and driving the entire country. The president was hoping, and I'm sure he's delighted with what's happening, that you will help him to migrate the rest of the country onto digital platforms. So that's where your importance is. And I suppose this is the reason why we are here. We are here to celebrate the contribution of important stakeholders who are working with the president and the entire country to achieve the medium-term goals and also to support the immediate priorities for our country. As the president observed a few days ago in Parliament, we may not have achieved what we wanted at the bare maximum. But definitely when you talk about foreign exchange reserves, we are not where we were in 2022. And that is not porojo. That is not lies. Our shilling was 160 something per dollar. Today it is 128. Those of you who have been trying to keep some dollars to hope that when you go back again saying that we are not struggling to get dollars to import fuel and many other things. And those who are importing things from China also know, and other parts of the world, that our foreign exchange reserves are not as scarce as they were in 2022. This is again a fact, it's not a lie. So, ladies and gentlemen, the cost of food has also come down. Again, this is not a lie. I see very many people, and I'm sure there are some of our members in the media, trying to say things which are not true. Some of the things that our media people do here cannot be tolerated in other countries. Please, change a little bit. The truth of the matter is that the 2 kilogram unga, jogo, had become wild. The prices were wild. They were in the 280 to 270 range. Today, they are just about 130. And if you come from maize growing areas like myself, a 2 kilogram maize can will just cost you about 50 shillings. Now, this is not where our country was in 2022. So we may not have reached the expectations of people, but I think it has come. But who has also helped us to achieve this objective? TESPOC, technology service providers of Kenya, have been critical. At this point, I want even to thank you that when we called on some of your members to support us to make sure we secure national exams, you did very well. I want you to clap for everybody who did that. So the government knows you are partners, and you have played a major, major role in making things work. You are part of the digitization process. If you are not there, people will not order for small things from China, and when they arrive here, they deliver them to Kisii. It is your platforms that are helping our people communicate. So MSMEs, which is a big agenda in the president's thinking, which is also a big agenda for us in Kenya, will not work without you. You have heard we are now establishing platforms to deliver fertilizer. If you are not there, our efforts in agriculture will come to zero. And that is a fact. And you are playing that role very well. If you are not there, the housing scheme would collapse. How are we going to order for cement? I'm sure on these platforms you see, how many of you, even when you stay in Nairobi and you are doing a construction at home, you tell people, you tell a shopkeeper or a cement dealer to deliver some cement to a site so that they can put up some structure in your home. You don't have to physically travel to your village to have things done. This is being done because these platforms that you control are helping us to achieve that. Ordering materials for housing. Above all, you are facilitating the creation of jobs, not just in your industry, but in many other places. Right now, there are people who have started putting up tending tree nurseries to support the 15 billion trees that the president wants us to grow. You again, if you don't sell the seedlings in your own area, you can get market. But to get market, you don't have to travel. Government digitization is also going on, as you know. There have been about just 350 around 2022 services. Now we are onboarding more services. And in line with the priority areas, this onboarding has reduced revenue leakages in our country, that now we're collecting more money than we were able to do 2 years ago. So I could go on and on, but I'm talking about the fact that you have been part and parcel of the president's agenda, the Kenyan covenant, which made the president and his government to be elected. So as we gather here, we appreciate that big thing, and we must know you are not just here for showbiz. You are an important part. The bottom-up transformation would not be where it is now without you. So we really appreciate you. And so we also appreciate that you have had challenges. I could see Fiona, Doctor, my sister Fiona. Welcome to the club. I think you raised a number of challenges. We know those challenges are there. We also have challenges. which we would like to share with you. For example, with the critical infrastructure situation which you raise, we really think that as we meet, while you could blame government for not moving the bill forward at one point, but you know that even your own industry doesn't have an agreement on what critical infrastructure is. The definition of critical infrastructure, as I pointed out elsewhere, is a moving target. If, for example, you are digging the trenches and you want to put the fiber, you will be worried about the water pipes, the sewage overhead. You won't have to worry about it. So it graduates from critical infrastructure to an non-issue, depending on the strategy you use. So you have also to help government to come out with a better definition of what is composed of critical infrastructure, and you must think 30 years, 50 years from now, so that some of the things you think are not critical infrastructure can easily become critical infrastructure in a few years to come. My challenge to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, is to ask. My brother Tanuya has talked about digitization. From the day one, government said it will do 52% of the digitization project across the country. The rest will be private sector, 48%. How much of that percentage has your team taken over? How much have you exploited so far? And if you have not exploited that bit, what are the challenges that you think government can make an intervention in so that it helps you go forward? So as you do your advocacy, capacity building, and research, you need to provide us with the data. I think there are also complaints about taxation regimes. So you really need to tell us how best can we proceed. If one tax is not good, it's not enough to just get out and say, the government is taxing us. What is it that you think will cause problems, especially for our agenda? I encourage you to look at our agenda clearly, the issues that are raised around our manifesto, and then say, come and tell government that if you do this tax, you do this measure, you undertake this measure, it even affects your agenda more than it supports it. And with that data-driven approach, we are likely to make a lot of progress. We think that we are partners, conjoined at the hip, and we're not going to leave each other. The little disagreements that we get, sometimes through licensing, it's not about government doing things deliberately to hurt the industry. Sometimes also our members do some things that make it very tough for government. There are people who, after they have failed to pay a license from one platform, they rush to another one without you knowing. Then they roam around. So actually, what Mugonyi has been doing, he has been running after them. And sometimes when you see him looking exhausted, it's because he has hit his head on the door as he pursued. You know, have you ever chased a rabbit? It doesn't work. So ladies and gentlemen, to make sure Mugonyi doesn't keep running with a fimbo everywhere, also let there be some little discipline within our members and try to blacklist those who are trying to move from one operator to another to just escape certain responsibilities so that our country moves as one. So government is willing to give the necessary incentives, and I'm happy that you have chosen made the right decision to invite our distinguished cabinet secretary to come here and share some sentiments with you, some opinions on what she thinks can be done, and also you share with her what you think. Some of those things you think about have been captured in the addresses we have just received a few moments ago, but at least we now think that we have the right footing, we have the right people to work with, and we look forward to improving our relationship for the good and for the progress of our country. So, without saying more, I think I will stop there and now ask you to be upstanding to welcome our Cabinet Secretary in charge of the Ministry of Information, Communication and Digital Economy, Dr. Margaret Nyambura. Welcome, Cabinet Secretary. Thank you very much.
Our peers, Professor Edward Kisiangani and Engineer Tanui, DG David Mugonyi, Stanley from ICTA, David from the Media Council, and all the CEOs we have here, Chairman of TESPO, James Turuthi, Dr. Fiona Asonga, I think they forgot to put that one, should always be remembered, Chief Executive Officer, TESPOC, technology providers, distinguished guests, good morning. It's a real honor to be here and to hear so many internet service providers that are operating in Kenya in various forms. And this reminds me of 1996, when I started working for Africa Online. How many of us were working at that point? 1996. Yeah, so I think there were only two internet service providers, Africa Online and Formnet. And basically, you can imagine the change in terms of, I used to do content, and for us to do content, we had to go to Nation physically to correct the pictures and come and scan. And you log into their servers using Unix, Linux to download the content. And so the changes are real. We had to wait until the physical paper is done for us now to start working on the online one. And we'll finish past midnight so that people can wake up and see the content. So the journey has really been real, and I really appreciate the role each one of us has played in that journey. Again, when I go back to organization of the ICT sector, I remember Kenya ICT Federation. Again, who can remember that? I headed that organization in 2006. Before now, we collapsed into KEPSA, and there I was one of the founding coordinator of the ICT sector, education, science and technology, and health. So again, to see the changes from that time, it is quite amazing. We used to have ministerial stakeholder forums, which again I would want us to start having, and we will discuss. And it is through these forums that we are able to see what is affecting the sector, what is cross-cutting, what can we do together, and in so doing, then we're able to collaborate and ensure that we don't pile up challenges, we support each other, because again, we should be complementing. We all want the digital economy to grow for the country, and each one of us has a role. We'd want those people in the rural areas to be well catered for, our mothers, our sisters, our young people. We want all of them to be included in this digital space. And therefore, now let me read my written speech. So let me take this early opportunity to sincerely thank TESPOC and all industry players for finding time to attend this breakfast meeting, being my first formal engagement with the telecommunication industry since my appointment in August this year. As you'd expect, the past 3 months have been learning moments for me to appreciate the incredible contribution of our ICT sector to the larger national aspirations of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. It's different when you are writing policies, you are writing strategies, you are saying the government should do ABCD. Now there I am, I'm supposed to be implementing it. So you can imagine I really have to work very collaboratively with all of you to ensure that what we put in paper, then we are able to implement it. As Cabinet Secretary, I have engaged extensively with stakeholders to understand the opportunities and challenges within the ICT sector. The government recognizes the pivotal role the private sector plays in driving innovation and advancing our nation's digital economy. Aligned with the Better Manifesto, we are committed to creating an enabling environment that fosters investments and positions ICT as a catalyst for growth across all sectors. Through collaboration with the private sector, we aim to build thriving and inclusive ICT ecosystem that drives Kenya's digital transformation. distinguished guests and colleagues, the digital economy presents immense opportunities for individuals to leverage opportunities, generate income, and contribute to the overall socio-economic development of our nation. The government, through the digital superhighway, is keen on enhancing access to broadband services through our ambitious plan to deploy 100,000 kilometers and establish 25,000 Wi-Fi hotspots and 1,450 ICT hubs across the country. Again, the role of the private sector in all this is critical. We have to ensure that what we are investing is sustainable, and it cannot be sustainable if it is the government that is driving it. And that's where we call all of you to help us come up with the sustainable models. We want the private sector to play a key role to ensure that whatever is implemented, then it can stand all the challenges that there may be. To ensure that we are working with our young people in rural areas, because they are the ones we want to create jobs for. We don't want them to be coming to Nairobi to look for jobs, and that's why we are creating all these hubs and innovation hubs. So let us build capacity. Let us release the data both from government and private sector so that they can use it to innovate, to create digital solutions that are contextualized. Because again, we are saying we want our young people to develop solutions not for our country only, but also to export. And we can only do this if we are supporting them with data. The private sector, you have a lot of data. Government, we have a lot of data. The civil society, there's a lot of data. Academia, there's a lot of data. And we want to have evidence-based policies, implementation, so that we are solving real challenges. These initiatives, along others, being executed Service Fund, seek to ensure Abingwa's access to ICT services and to leave no one behind in the digital transformation journey. And again, as we're saying, we are leaving no one behind. Let us all be safe in this digital space. We don't want people driving in a superhighway aimlessly. We want them to be channeled. This energy, we must channel it somewhere. And that this can only happen if they have the right capacity, if they are aware of their digital presence, and they can be confident enough that they are safe and they are able to do businesses online. As we are aware, the digital transformation agenda seeks to ensure digitization of public service to enhance efficiency service delivery. What this means beyond the availability of ICT services, we must enable our citizens. And again, I emphasize our women in rural areas. The reason we are going with all these 1,450 innovation hubs is to ensure that we are including everyone. Let's ensure that we contextualize the training, the capacity building we are doing. Let us accommodate their places. May they be in the health centers, chiefs' camps, wherever we can find these young women, these old women, because we are saying all the digital services will be online. How do we expect them to access these services if they don't understand, if they are not well capacitated to be able to navigate through the digital space? So again, I encourage all of you, let us come up with the business models that will take care of these young people, harness these talent, the tech savvy and the like. Let us ensure we are taking them to the right places. We are deeply committed to equipping our citizens, particularly the youth, with the skills needed to thrive the digital economy and create meaningful employment opportunities. One of our flagship initiatives in this endeavor is the Jitume Digital Hub Program. This innovative program establishes digital hubs across the country, providing access to state-of-the-art technology and training facilities. Through these hubs, young people gain essential digital skills, access e-services, and tap into online work opportunities. The Jitume program not only bridges the digital skills gap, but also empowers the youth to participate in Kenya's growing digital economy, fostering self-reliance and entrepreneurship in unserved and underserved communities. Distinguished guests and colleagues, Digital Government Services e-Citizen Portal has over 19,000 services online. The services include passports and visa applications, birth registrations, company registration services, taxation, custom, and other government services, and more to come. The connectivity and access to affordable devices are deeply intertwined in driving an expanded digital economy. Recognizing this, the East Africa Device Assembly Plant plays a crucial role in ensuring that more citizens can own mobile devices, promoting digital inclusion, creating employment opportunities, and contributing to economic growth. I've just mentioned one. I know many can come up. So we need to ensure we have devices, affordable devices, that everybody can own at less than 10,000, 5,000, even better. Because again, we are saying This is our forum to do business, to be able to engage. Since its launch in October 2023, the facility has produced a substantive number of devices while also generating jobs. By reducing import costs for key components, the government has facilitated a reduction in smartphone prices, making them more accessible to a broader segment of the population. This synergy between connectivity and affordability not only bridges the digital divide, but also drives innovation, increases productivity, and strengthens Kenya's position in the broader digital economy. Kenya's effort in innovation and early adaptation of ICTs are highly regarded the world over. We have a duty and responsibility to enhance this position. Distinguished guests and colleagues, we are equally making significant strides in enhancing digitization to other facets of our economy, including digital court processes, land registry, and other government processes. Again, ICT is an enabler. Let us work with all other government arms to help them digitize. And as we do all these ethical business, I think we need to ensure that is our guiding principle, to ensure that we are sustainability. We are concerned about our country. Yeah, we don't want just to make profits. It's about changing lives. It's about sustainability. It's about contributing to those people in rural areas, to those people who are less enabled, to ensure that we are leaving no one behind. The ongoing reforms in the sector, including reviews of regulatory frameworks, seek to position the ICT industry to both respond to emerging realities and guide the country into a future of enhanced, meaningful connectivity. To accelerate economic growth and job creation, the government, in collaboration with stakeholders in the ICT sector, will continuously assess progress to ensure we remain focused on achieving our set objectives. Meetings like these are vital for tracking milestones and fostering collaboration. Additionally, I'll engage with other subsectors and stakeholders to seek insights and build synergies, driving our collective efforts towards advancing Kenya's digital transformation. We'll continue to streamline policies, invest in infrastructure, and ensure that the regulatory framework in place are conducive to both national and international investors. Our role as a government is to be a facilitator, to create opportunities and to remove barriers, including red tape. And again, here we must work together. We must share information. Again, we want to have evidence-based policies, and this can only be done if we are discussing in an open way, in a way that we want all to contribute to make Kenya the digital hub that it is. To our private sector partners, I urge you to continue investing in innovation, training, and infrastructure that will empower the next generation of leaders. Your involvement is crucial in ensuring that Africa's digital economy is ethical, inclusive, and resilient. Let us provide attachment again to our young people. Let us ensure that the young people we are getting from universities, they have the right skills to get into the industry. And again, this can happen if the private sector, we are accommodative enough to let them come, learn, and exchange knowledge. Some of us, when we chose to go to information science, to go to IT, we didn't have mentors to direct us. It is because of internship. So let us open our doors to have these young people come and learn and be able to shape their careers. You will agree with me that some of the greatest government projects and initiatives rolled out in the recent past greatly benefited from the commitment, support of private sector partners, and I thank you earnestly on behalf of my ministry and the government. Distinguished guests, in conclusion, the Ministry of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy is your avenue of engaging with the government. Let us continue to work together to grow the sector. Great if we can have periodic structured engagement, I think probably twice a year, and I'll ask TESPOC, CA, and the PSS, we organize that so that we meet the industry twice a year, just to discuss the challenges, opportunities, collaborations, so that we all move together. I wish once again to appreciate the sector regulator for driving the industry forward and pledge my ministry's continued collaboration to ensure better and more facilitative regulation of the sector. Thank you for your kind attention.
Before Madam CS takes her seat, I would like to take this opportunity to ask her to hand over and recognize the CA for the role that they have been playing. The CA received an award during the Africa Tech Festival for playing a leading role as a pioneer in policy development in the IPv6 migration. In this room, we have the infrastructure owners who deploy the IPv6 networks, who are supposed to be handling the migration, and there wouldn't be a better opportunity to hand these over to see and recognize them than today when we're talking about collaboration, because as service providers, we have received already IPv6 address blocks from Afrinic. For the last 5 years, they've been being given for free. We want to see the networks deploying the IPv6. The CA was gracious enough since the setup of the Kenya IPv6 chapter last year, where TESPOC and CA are co-chairs to lead in developing an IPv6 strategy, and they are being recognized for that. So I'll ask if the DG, Mr. David Ngoni, please step forward, and I'll kindly ask you, Madam CS, to hand over from the front there, to hand over this trophy to the CA, appreciating them for the work that they have done and the strategy development that you're doing for the industry. Let us just take and that was a regional recognition. So of all the regulators, you're leading in terms of putting this forward, and really appreciate. And so if you'll allow us, Madam CS, we want to open up the floor for any comments and feedback. We do have a few minutes where we can now, following having had the way forward in terms of how government would like us to collaborate, if we can just have a brief conversation, then we'll have some announcements coming through from the PS Engineer Tanui and from our partners in Estonia on a number of things that industry needs to be aware of. But prior to that, open mic. Marilyn, where are you, the microphone? With any comments, just lift up your hand and the mic can be brought to you. Any feedback? Where is the mic? Okay. Anyone to get us started on a conversation, or we are all happy, or we've been given so much food for thought? Yes, there is a comment here. Please bring the mic to Mr. Walter.
I just want to compliment everyone here on the changes that are happening in Kenya. So I'm also the founder of the Africa Data Centers Association based in Abidjan, which unites all the major operators on the continent. And it's clear that all the changes happening in Kenya are heading in the right direction. So compliments to that. I do team up with James on this need to improve access to fiber ducts in this country. I just spent my Sunday yesterday watching a KPLC pole that was fell all over next to our facility. But we're all
Say bye-bye to FOMO, the fear of missing out, by downloading the KBC Online app that gives you access to everything you love. Get the latest news, sport,
is a class
music, entertainment news, live radio, and so much more at the palm of your hand.